Seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, the rosters are set. It's all positivity around the NFL. Welcome to Maggie Perloff Show. Perloff here in the New York studio, Maggie in New Jersey. Everybody looks good right now. 32 teams with hope. Maggie, let's kill that hope. Let's get negative right off the bat.
Oh, boy.
Because I am seeing, I'm watching Hard Knocks, and the Bears look great. I see everybody's excited about their quarterback situation, and by week 11, there's going to be 16 new quarterbacks. You have to admit, there's a lot of false hope out there because there are some teams that have major issues. Let's talk about the coaches.
Yep.
And listen, I don't want to fire anybody. Neither do you. I know that. But the reality of the NFL is there will probably be some real pressure on coaches. Who do you think has the most pressure, Maggie, around the NFL?
Okay, well, if I'm asking this question and it's not someone who's on the hot seat or even close, to me, though, this is like a compliment how much pressure is on this head coach, and it's Kyle Shanahan. And I even think Kyle Shanahan would tell you that. Now, you have built this incredible program with John Lynch. You have a great culture. You've got players motivated. All the good things I'll say about Kyle Shanahan. He's an innovator on offense. People only want to emulate his offense. His assistants keep getting hired. We all know the great things with the San Francisco 49ers and Shanahan. But too much is given, much is expected. And the fact that Shanahan has lost these big games and these Super Bowls specifically, I think puts him under the most pressure of anyone. Now, granted, he's going to have a job. This is not, you've got to move your family across the country. So different kind of pressure. But the way that he lost the last Super Bowl is funny because, Pearl, I went back and I was looking at some interviews that he was giving leading up to the game against the Kansas City Chiefs in Las Vegas. And he said, the only thing I don't want to have after this game are regrets. And I have to imagine the way that game unfolded with having a fourth quarter lead and then getting the ball in overtime and not going in for the touchdown, which obviously the Chiefs would have a chance to match anyway. We know that now with the new rules. But I think leaving it up to your defense to try to get a stop on Patrick Mahomes should be a huge regret. It should be a regret. So I think for him, he's got to feel like, how many times could I knock my head against the wall and finally win the Lombardi and hoist it, because it's the last remaining thing on his resume, and it's going to be the hardest thing, obviously.
Wait, are you saying he should have gone for it on fourth down in overtime?
I don't know if every part of the play calling becomes different. You and I talked about this for weeks after that game. Was everyone aware of what the new rules were, right? Wow. Because I don't know if you play that in a more aggressive way if you're Kyle Shanahan. I'm just saying I think he does have regrets from that game. And the fact that he even got to overtime, I think probably is another big one.
Well, the killer move was to take the ball first. That was what I think historically you're going to nail him for. It was 4th and 4. That would be a gutsy decision. I mean, I would, Detroit Lions coach Dan Campbell would go for any 4th and 4 in overtime of the Super Bowl in front of the entire world to go for it. I think it really was a huge mistake to take the ball first. But let me ask you this about Shanahan, though, Maggie. Have the expectations lowered a little bit because of the chaotic offseason? I mean, people are doing Super Bowl picks. I feel like the Niners are not quite as popular as they were because Brandon Aiyuk has been holding out.
Yep.
Trent Williams has been holding out. Christian McCaffrey is fallen in every fantasy draft. He's no longer the number 1 pick. So I wonder if he has a little bit of excuses built in.
I I don't think so, because I don't think people are looking at the Aiyuk and Trent Williams situations and going, wow, those players are the ones that are in the wrong. Now, maybe we've gotten some calls from the Bay Area where people are fed up with Aiyuk. You get paid a lot to play a game. We know that he's not the best receiver in the league. He's not the number one maybe option on his own team. We understand all of that, but at the same time, I think that's on the organization to get that stuff resolved. I never think that's on the player.
But it's not about blame. It's about expectations. I mean, let's be realistic. If Trent Williams isn't in there, all of a sudden, I actually think it lowers the pressure on Shanahan, because that's a great excuse. And this excuses are, football coaches say, oh, there's no excuses, but we're talking about perception. Yeah. I think he gets a little bit of a hall pass if Trent Williams really doesn't show, which I think he will eventually. But, I mean, come on. And I know Aiyuk has its rights, but Trent Williams already getting paid a lot. I think the blame game, don't you blame him a little more than most guys? He's 35. He's made a ton of money. Like, dude, you're holding out right now. I hate to side with the team because that's ridiculous. But if Trent Williams, what do you expect Shanahan to do if he loses the best left tackle in the league?
I know, but kind of hard to say that when you had 9 Pro Bowlers last year and 7 All-Pros. You have a really good team. It doesn't just come down to one guy. Yeah. So that's kind of the luxury, I guess, of what the 49ers are doing. It's not like, oh my gosh, if this one person goes down, the whole season is sunk, which it might be like for some other teams. I don't even know if they'd be sunk if they lost Brock Purdy, maybe, but
no,
they might be able
not.
to, right. They might be able to hold the fort. So for that reason, I don't really have the built-in excuses for Shanahan. I think if Trent Williams is not there on for the first game against the New York Jets and that pass rush, that is a failure from John Lynch and I guess even Shanahan, because I think he's really in on the player personnel stuff. But no, I think if we're talking about the coach who has the most pressure, again, not the hot seat, not getting fired. Every team would love to have him. But he's got to be feeling that. And then you just add in the fact that it is so hard to get back to the Super Bowl after you've lost it the year before. And I just think that the pressure compounds, in my opinion. And he's got the pedigree and he's got everything else except the Lombardi.
I'll tell you one thing, though. I've seen projections. They're already $30 million over the cap next year, and they haven't given Purdy his money yet. So, listen, they can't just throw money at Trent Williams. But forget Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan... You're right. He is under definite pressure. But as you said, he'll have his job. I want to go with a guy who might not keep his job.
Who's that?
And I actually can't believe I got this guy and you went Shanahan. You're telling me that Nick Sirianni is not under pressure in my hometown of Philadelphia, Maggie? I mean, after last year's collapse, you know that they had to have high-level discussions about moving on. And instead, they brought in 2 veteran coordinators, Vic Fangio on defense, Kellen Moore on offense. And as you like to say, what does exactly Nick Sirianni do around here? I worry about the Eagles. I think the optimism you're hearing about the Eagles might be overstated. They bring in a high-profile free agent in Saquon Barkley. I don't believe running backs move the needle at all in terms of wins and losses. I think they lost Jason Kelce. I think if this team struggles, there's going to be so much coming down on Sirianni, especially with your guy Bill Belichick looming out there in the ether, knowing he has a strong connection to the Eagles. He convinced the Eagles to hire Matt Patricia last year. I mean, come on. He basically shadow runs the team anyway. He seems to be in Lurie's ear or Howie Roseman's ear. The big problem, remember last year's collapse, Maggie? The offense was bad, but the defense was just terrible. I'm not so sure the defense is going to be terrible again. Their back 7 is just awful. They're starting Keely Ringo, who's a late-round pick at one cornerback. Then they have Quinyon Mitchell's a rookie cornerback who's going to play nose. And Darius Slay, last year you saw was over the hill. They did bring back my guy, Gardner Johnson, who's all attitude. But there's a chance that if you catch a screen pass, you're going to be able to go 80 yards consistently against this defense. I'm telling you. Then they have these draft picks, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter up front. Maggie, by week 10, they're so gassed that they can't even tackle anyone either. I just worry if the defense falls apart, the offense is never going to get on the field, and Jalen Hurts is going to get frustrated, and they're going to blame Sirianni. Nick Sirianni is set up to be blamed. Now, that is real pressure.
Oh, he's definitely feeling it, Pearl. I'm surprised he made it through training camp. I mean, this guy should be switching to decaf if he hasn't already, because it's going to be too much anxiety, I think, in the room. Yeah, Nick Sirianni. See, here's the thing about Sirianni and why he's totally in a bad spot. He's a vibes guy. And when the vibes are off, well, who do you point to? And the fact that we got an ESPN borderline expose about how Sirianni and Jalen Hurts couldn't even be in the same room together without a third person there to sort of be like a buffer in a meeting, because that's how far apart they were. Their communication was so bad that they needed like an interpreter or something to be there to try to get on the same page. That is a terrible look for a head coach. You have got to find a way to talk to your quarterback, and especially if you're the dude who's like supposedly there for all the culture stuff, and Jalen Hurts is just not much of a rah-rah guy, and that's fine. He doesn't have to be. The head coach was taking up that mantle, but if it's hollow and he doesn't have a lot of responsibilities and he can't get along with Hurts, he is sunk. And here's the one thing where you and I will disagree about Sirianni. I don't think anyone's going to miss him. It will be a story in Philadelphia, but like if Kyle Shanahan, like why I think he's got under the most pressure because of the high profile losses in the Super Bowl, but he's like a tectonic shift in the league. If he ever switched teams, it would be a massive like sea change. Like if Andy Reid switched teams, or one of these coaches that really, really matter. Nick Sirianni may never get a head coaching job again, and he'll just kind of be that guy that took the Eagles to the Super Bowl when we know Shane Steichen was calling all the plays anyway.
Yeah, but Kyle Shanahan's not switching teams. He's
not. I'm just saying if he did.
Yeah, he'll switch in 10 years. He's Andy Reid 2.0. He's going to have all these playoff failures eventually figured out. He reminds me so much of Reid. Poor game manager, incredible play caller. Just has to probably mature in a way. But one thing, by the way, I do not put that all on Sirianni about them not talking. Jalen Hurts loved the former offense coordinator, Brian Johnson. And me sitting in my couch in New York, even my daughter knows, like, Brian Johnson was calling terrible plays last year. You could see it. And Sirianni didn't do any better when he took over the play calling. So I'm not putting that 100. I put that also on Hurts last year. You said it's a bad look for the coach not to get along with the quarterback. Listen, they all have to play well. I think Hurts is under pressure, too. The Eagles will move on like that. They moved on from Carson Wentz in the exact same situation. He stopped getting along with Doug Peterson. So Howie Roseman has an itchy trigger finger. That's why I think this is a much hotter situation because, I don't know how you're picking the NFC East, Maggie, but it does seem like all this turmoil in Dallas, and they still might be a better team than the Eagles. So if the Eagles don't win this division, that's the kind of pressure we're talking about. They almost have the same amount of pressure as the Niners to win without really the same amount of talent.
I think the Eagles are talented. I'm not going to let them off the hook like that. I think it's a 2-horse race there, and I've got some high hopes, maybe dark horse stuff for the Commanders, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. I think that Sirianni, yes, the pressure's way more acute. Like, he could be fired by week 5 and out the door, and I don't think the Eagles would be afraid to do something like that. There's some teams that won't really make those kind of moves. Like, I don't expect Mike McCarthy to get fired mid-season for any reason whatsoever. He's obviously feeling a lot of pressure as well. But I think there's some owners and GMs who say, listen, we'll take the wave. We'll brace for impact. We'll fire the guy, and we'll get going with an interim. And the Eagles are definitely a team like that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Mike McCarthy, if history proves anything, he'll be there another 7 years about. He'll have the same record. He'll go between 12-5 and 8-8 for the rest of the time. I mean, if Jason Garrett could last that long, come on, Maggie. You know that Mike McCarthy pressure has a asterisk. If Jerry likes you, you stick around. But by the way, the odds are, we forgot some of the have you looked at the hot seat odds? Some books give you the first coach to be fired. Have you seen some of the names?
No, tell me who's
So Dennis Allen's number 1.
Okay, tree falls in the woods.
McCarthy's number 2, which I don't buy at all, because his first head coach fired. This is betonline.ag. Yeah. Brian Daboll is 3. That's interesting to me. We didn't even mention him because the Giants haven't won in so long. I don't think he fits this conversation.
I don't see that at all. I mean, I don't know about Daboll. This ownership has gotten suddenly very trigger happy on flipping coaches, but I do not. Joe Judge was a particular type of disaster. Another former Belichick assistant. They can't quit those guys. And Daboll worked for Belichick too, but I don't see during the season. No way.
And Ben McAdoo wasn't exactly perfect either. Right? Todd Bowles is number 4. That's one that's way under the radar. I don't see that happening. But the one that does, I think both you and I might have looked at, is Robert Saleh is 5, right before Sirianni is 6. Saleh is I think the third wheel in this conversation we're talking about too.
Yeah, here's the thing about Saleh. The one thing that might save him is I think Aaron Rodgers, talking about who shadow runs a team, and we're talking about coaches on the hot seat as we head into the NFL season. I think that Saleh, his fate is whether Rodgers wants to keep him around. If Rodgers is like, listen, I don't want this kind of chaos in the middle of the season. And Rodgers has never met chaos he doesn't like. So I don't know if this is any kind of reprieve for Saleh, but if Rodgers says, listen, stay the course, we'll work around it or something like that, I think that he stays.
That's a healthy situation you just described. Actually, then it goes Sirianni 6, and then the Flus, number 7. I mean, Matt Eberflus is awesome on Hard Knocks, so I'm going to give him the Hard Knocks bump. I am not putting him on my list. I don't know what he did something cool with his hair. I feel like Matt Eberflus is having a moment. Am I insane, Maggie?
Yeah, watched last night of Hard Knocks. He really didn't have much. There wasn't much about him. It was more about the guys who are on the fringe for the roster. But I'm really surprised that Doug Peterson is not anywhere around this list, because you have a combination of expectations. You just paid Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. I think we kind of see Doug Peterson kind of like Trevor's first coach. Like, we're all forgetting the Urban Meyer thing. So this would be like his second coach in some kind of weird football math. Yeah. And I also think that ownership in Jacksonville, I wouldn't put it past them. So I think Doug Peterson, who, has one double-digit win season on his resume, which was the 13-3 Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl year, if you take that 13-3 resume off of his record, his overall record for wins and losses drops to 47-50. That's not any kind of awesome, amazing coach. Now, he does have winning a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback, so that's awesome. But I think that Doug Peterson is very much on the hot seat because of the expectations for Lawrence.
I don't agree, because I think Jacksonville's focused on building a new stadium. I don't think anybody expects them to win much. They've had personnel problems too. I think that GM should be on the hot seat more than the coach. I mean, yeah, they might fire Doug Peterson, but talk about it. You don't think people will notice if Sirianni goes away. I just think Jacksonville's so under the radar this year after we all were high on them last year. I know we were both really high on them. But now they're under the radar. If Doug Peterson got fired, that would not. I feel like most people don't even remember he's the coach there. I don't know why. Like, I never hear about Doug Peterson.
In our chat, youtube.com/InfinitySportsNet, twitch.tv/InfinitySportsNetwork, where Andrew Kaplan's already weighing in. Saleh's definitely getting fired. He says.
Yeah, I agree with you though, Maggie. We'll see when Aaron Rodgers, what he decides. He's kept Nathaniel Hackett employed for a long time. If he can keep Hackett in the game, then Saleh might be okay. All right, coming up next, CeeDee Lamb is signed. That means we're down to a handful of holdouts, which are driving me crazy, and we got to make picks, Maggie, so we got to get these things settled. We'll do that next, right here, Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff. So it's an exciting day here in the studio. Pete Bellotti is back from Disney. I'm sure we're going to have amazing stories coming up. Pete is, this is a class, dude, you really tan well. You should say, we should do a picture of me and you. I'm as pale as I'll get out, and you look like Ricardo Montalban.
I am Italian and Puerto Rican, so that's the best. Some of the best parts of that is getting tan.
Yeah, you look great. I want to hear about Disney, but Maggie is not here. We sort of referenced it on Monday, but once again, you tested positive for COVID. So you are in the New Jersey man cave.
Yep.
I've been hearing about some of your efforts to sort of stabilize there, but the thing about smell cracked me up. What are you doing here with your issue with smell?
Okay, so first of all, I'm feeling very lucky. I feel good. I'm under very good care. Obviously, I feel good enough to do the show, and I'm happy to do the show. I don't want to miss a moment. But I have this sort of lingering thing where I can't smell or taste anything, and it's been like days and days now. This is tested positive on Sunday. It's Wednesday. I mean, I can't smell or taste anything. And so I looked up, like, how do you get your sense of smell and taste back? And according to, like, Harvard and other really reputable places, you have to go into your kitchen and find things that smell, like, potent and then just sniff them for like 30 seconds at a time. So when no one else is in my kitchen and I'm there by myself, I'm like opening jars of peanut butter, just like inhaling them. Like my favorite movie is Spaceballs, like how they used to uncrack the air and just like sniff. I'm sniffing cinnamon. Some stuff, it's scaring me because I can't smell any part of it. I'm sniffing soy sauce. I'm trying to trick my brain into smelling again. It's not working.
So what's the science is it activates the smell things when you do this? I don't understand this at all.
I guess so. Like you're supposed to just start smelling things, and I think it gets your brain kind of like back, like going again. Maybe you try to trick your taste buds, I guess. I don't know, but I'm on day 4 here, and I can't taste anything.
The taste worries me. Listen, I have allergies, so I have trouble smelling stuff anyway. We have a buddy, Will Leach, who's a writer, former sports writer, and writes books. He's never smelled a thing in his life. He was born with no smelling ability.
Is that right?
He said he's never smelled anything.
So he's never tasted anything then either?
Yeah. No, he could taste fine. So smell and taste do have some differences. I mean, when he was in elementary school, everyone would be like, whoever smelt it dealt it. It's like, not me, because I didn't smell it. I feel like this conversation is headed in that direction.
Well, did never who denied it supplied it? I mean, how does that even work when you have no sense of smell? I was worried.
You might not even know if you did it. I mean, that's the bottom line here. If you can't smell
it. You can't totally deny. But, David Sampson, who's joined us, who is the former president of the Marlins, he's been very open about this. He got COVID, and his sense of smell and taste never came back. And apparently this is happens to a lot of people. So, of course, I'm, freaking out about it a little bit, and I'm feverishly smelling things in my kitchen.
What do you mean you can't? I've had COVID twice, and I've never lost my taste. What does that mean? So if you have, say, taco or something... Yeah. Nothing. There's no taste? It tastes like you're just eating sawdust?
Well, kind of. I mean, the texture, obviously, but I can put hot sauce. Like, I could douse my stuff in hot sauce, and I just won't, I can feel some kind of sensation, but it's not spicy.
How about ice cream or something sweet? I know you love sugar.
I know. Well, I was splitting ice. I cut and divided an ice cream sandwich with my kid yesterday, and it's like, why am I even doing this? I'm not getting any pleasure from this whatsoever. I can't taste any part of it.
Well, that's exciting. Oh, man, it sounds like a good time out there in Jersey. I will tell you one thing. Your little studio setup is getting more attractive by the day. It looks great now. I got to tell you, Monday, Andrew Bogus, of course, has been breaking it down minute by minute. His observations are, but it looks like you've set up these Bills jerseys and these posters. By the time you come back, you're going to have perfected the home studio. And then, but the thing is it a closet or a studio? What are you in right now?
Definitely in the closet, still in the closet. I'm in the closet that my husband and I share with all of our clothes in it, and I just move some stuff around. Thank you for the compliment. He's been helping me too. And I'm going to get this thing perfect just in time to come back to New York. And I'm just going to leave it, actually. I think I'm just going to keep the whole thing
Don't you need the closet, though?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can see it on Infinity Sports Radio Network YouTube page. You can watch Maggie in her studio. Right now, though, we have Andrew Bogus in our actual New York studio. Bogues, you always observe things about Maggie's little studio. How do you think it looks today?
It looks very good. I'm impressed by the commitment to make it look good. I would have no such urge to do that if I was in Maggie's position. You'd get what you got from behind me. But I do notice immediately that the clear shelving that I referenced yesterday and the weird black object behind Maggie, all gone.
God.
Totally spooked her out of that entire piece of furniture.
Yeah, the second the show ended, Maggie called her husband and said, Bogus noticed this, can you fix it? Because honestly, if I hate to ask this, but if I get COVID, can Andy come over to my house and help? Because would you remember when I had basically the door to the laundry room was my background. It was terrible. And you actually made fun of it. You're like, haven't you worked in TV for years? What is your setup? I just have never had a good home setup.
I'm happy to lend my husband out to help you. He's been to Best Buy like 6 times to try to get all this different types of stuff. And you did shame me into taking out the clear bins. The bins are gone, and I've replaced them with some other kind of I don't know, some other kind of table.
All right, folks. Headlines. What do you got?
Headlines, as always, sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Protect your family, your phone, your furry friends with life, electronic device, and pet health insurance.
Ballsack was the best.
Let's talk about
Welcome back, Pete.
some unpaid wide receivers. Brandon Aiyuk is still kind of missing in San Francisco, but Jamar Chase's hold-in in Cincinnati is over, right, Zach Taylor?
Yeah, he's going to practice this week, and we'll just keep taking it from there.
Are you confident he'll play week 1?
Yes.
Chase has been on the field for light workouts the last 2 days. Taylor there referring to the more significant practices coming this week ahead of their opener. So no new deal for Jamar Chase yet, but he is back in regular standing now with the Bengals.
Do you guys remember when Jamar Chase was coming into the league and there was a story that he couldn't catch the NFL football because it didn't have the college football stripe on it? I downgraded the Bengals so much based on that preseason report that I've never seen a receiver come in and be so comfortable so fast in the NFL. I am never going to pay attention to a Cincinnati Bengals preseason storyline because I will never bet against Joe Burrow again the rest of my life. So I'm making nothing out of this Jamar Chase deal. And Maggie, isn't that the show rule?
Well, it's one of our 10 commandments, thou shalt not bet against Joe Burrow. And I believe that's in front of thou shalt not steal and thou shalt not commit other heinous atrocities. The first thing that you could do badly is bet against Joe Burrow. We all know that. You're right. Perloff, you've kind of been burned a couple times by the Bengals. I'm not going to lie. You bet that Joe Burrow would not sign a bigger contract than Justin Herbert. That led to you having to eat a bowl of Skyline chili with no hands. The Bogish called the play-by-play for.
Thought Burrow was a team player. I guess not. Thought he'd do Tom Brady, take less money. But one thing we disagree, I like the Joe Burrow buzz cut. You like the old 80s haircut or whatever he had before. I think that's a huge point of division here on the show.
You're right. Well, how are we ever going to bridge that divide? It's like America right now. We're just totally in our camps. Can't even see the other's point of view.
It shows to me a certain amount of confidence that Joe Burrow has. I'm actually really I got to tell you, I'm high on the Bengals. And it's partly, I know you're high on the Bengals too. I think we're both high on the Bengals. Yeah. So I'm not making a huge deal out of this Jamar Chase thing. Zach Taylor never really gives great press conferences anyway, so this doesn't concern me.
It just concerns me because missing training camp time seems to, scientifically or not, lead to some kind of pulled muscle. So one of these guys, CeeDee Lamb, Aiyuk, Chase, all that have skipped summer, one of them is getting a muscle pull significantly early in the season. It just seems to guarantee at least one of those guys getting hurt.
Well, I mean, the key issue with Cincinnati is Joe Burrow going to be healthy because of this wrist thing. So I have faith in Burrow that T. Higgins is a number one receiver too. They could probably survive that 3 weeks with the tight hamstring for Jamar Chase.
NFL owners yesterday allowed private equity firms to invest in teams for the first time. The league has spent the last few months vetting a small number of acceptable firms. Clubs can sell up to 10% of themselves to these firms. There's likely no decision-making power included in these transactions. And amid yesterday's roster moves was the Rams trading linebacker Ernest Pendleton-Jones to the Titans. It is what Perloff is most excited about this fall. LeBron playing with Bronny. But what does son call father on the court?
It's easy for me because I've been calling him Bronny for so long. Yeah. It's not like I've been calling, hey son. So it's easy for me. It's going to be the adjustment for him. But we cannot be running down the court. And he'd be like, Dad, push the ball up. Dad, I'm open. Dad, come on. I'm like, no, you cannot do that.
Well, he's not going to be open.
They do. Well, okay. Cut number 2 from LeBron on this.
We already laid that down. You cannot call me dad in the workplace. All right. Once we leave out of the private facility and the gates close, I could be dad again. In the car if we ride together. At home, I could be dad. No, he got to call me like 2-3 or Bron. Okay. Or, GOAT if he wants to. That's up to him. I mean, it's up to him.
So that's all from the shop. Everybody laughs, ha, ha, ha. Pete has one objection. Here's mine. When are they going to be on the court at the same time?
Exactly.
He is a borderline Bronny second-round pick. When did LeBron has ever run a fast break at a Laker anything with the number 54th pick in the first summer after being selected? When is this scenario going to happen where he needs to yell, hey, GOAT, pass it to me, I'm open on the wing?
Dude, why are you being buzzkill? We got a father-son team. They're gonna hit a layup and come to the sideline, and LeBron's gonna be wiping Bronny's nose with a napkin. It's gonna be great. This is gonna be the father-son team.
No,
I'm all in. You don't like this storyline? What is wrong with you guys? You guys are fathers. If you were LeBron, would you do anything differently? This is kind of awesome.
Yes, I would do much more to protect my son. Yes.
Correct.
What do you mean protect? He got him drafted in the NBA. Can you do that for your son?
If I could, I would when he was ready to go.
Well, I mean, listen, Bronny's as ready as he's ever going to be. I'm not sure Bronny in 5 years is going to be more ready. You're telling me if you ran the Detroit Tigers, you wouldn't sign Jake to a contract?
Yeah, but I wouldn't put him on the Tigers. He'd go play in Lakeland and then AA and then AAA, and then maybe he'd come play for me in Detroit.
Yeah, I've seen Jake play. I don't think he's getting out of Lakeland.
Hey, let's not move the goalpost. We're talking about Bronny, okay? All right, Ernest?
Here's the funny part about this. Like, this is the charade we're going to keep up. Like, I get that LeBron doesn't want to be called dad, but we all know why Bronny's there. So now all of a sudden you got to call me 2-3. Like, we're just going to keep going with this Bronny earned this, and there's not anyone in the building who may have had to pull a couple strings to get him in there. It's a smart move for everyone, but we're obviously going to just keep doing this charade like Bronny deserves to be there.
I hope they're so bad this year. They deserve to be so bad with all the stupidity that's going on in L.A.
Like, do we even think that last year's second-round pick from the Lakers was allowed to look at LeBron?
Handing him water.
Not even he couldn't talk to him. There was no eye contact. Now Bronny's running fast breaks with LeBron at training camp.
Why are you guys so negative? What is wrong with you? Why can't we just
Bronny
enjoy this?
Be in the NBA.
So what? Who cares? What do you even care who's on the bench of the Lakers anyway? Like, you don't probably who cares who's the 11th man on the Lakers? That's nothing we've ever talked about before.
Should we in any way entertain your thoughts on this after recounting your being fooled by the Jamar Chase striped football story?
Well, I wasn't fooled. He actually said it. No, come on. You're saying this has nothing to do with actual sports or win-loss total of the Lakers. This is just a neat narrative right now that there's a father-son, just like Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr. I think you guys should embrace it and be about family values and enjoy it, and it's funny.
Right.
That was a funny line. Don't call me dad on the fast break. Dad, I'm open. That's funny. Why do we have to, you don't care what Rob Pelinka does as a GM of the Lakers, Pete? What's the difference does it make? You have nothing invested here.
This is pathetic. All of it's pathetic. It's totally ridiculous. This is the NBA, and we're playing participation trophies. Enough.
Wow, that's the NBA. Isn't that what the in-season tournament is? That's the last thing the Lakers won.
Scam.
And
Don't get us started.
Before Pete leaves, let me introduce you to Pete. Caring about things that he has no investment in is his number one hobby.
Stupid.
Gonna
It's
miss
totally
you, Pete.
stupid.
It's totally stupid.
Wait, EJ, you want to say something about this Bronny not calling LeBron dad situation?
Yeah, I think that we're missing one key moment here. Look, Bronny can never call LeBron dad. LeBron's like, when we leave the facility, you can call me dad. No, if I was him, that's over. Now you're always 2-3, or you're GOAT, or you're whatever. Like, he can't call. I'm not gonna go back after the whole season, the 82-game season. I've been calling you 2-3 and GOAT, and I gotta go back in the offseason. Oh, hey, dad, that's done. I'm sorry.
Wait, EJ, hold on. Christmas morning, they're all hanging out together. He's gonna be like, "Thanks for the present, 2-3."
Yeah, no, seriously, he's a teammate now. Like, see, LeBron thinks he can have his cake and eat it too. He thinks he can have his son and still also have his teammate. That is over now. Look, Bronny is an adult. I'm not calling you dad at this point. If you give me the license to call you 2-3 or Bron, then that's what you're 2-3 and Bron for the rest of your life. Sorry, Bron or GOAT, whatever you want to be called now.
Dad's out forever.
EJ, you're not a dad. You have no idea. There's no way. Maggie said it. Keep coming out. Chris, thanks 2-3 for the new bike. That's not happening. He's dad for life. Trust me. I could win a Nobel Prize and my kids would not address me any differently. They're like, Dad, can you make me some lunch?
My in-laws, they call both of their my in-laws. My Andrea calls both of her parents by their first name, and a lot of people.
Yeah,
do.
that's a sign of a serial killer, by the way. But go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing you should do is you should drop mommy and daddy at some point. It needs to become mom and dad. But calling your parents by their name is weird, with all due respect to Mrs. EJ.
Hey,
really?
Yeah.
Hey, Bruce.
As an adult?
Yeah,
Hey,
you don't
Bruce.
call your dad Bruce. If it's your dad's
Wait,
name
you
is
guys
Bruce, you call him Dad.
You've never seen people call their parents by their first
I
name.
have, and it's weird. It's
Oh,
like
so- but
it's way
weird,
too
but you
new
don't
age
just-
for me.
Okay, but it's not like you guys made it sound like you've never heard of this before. That is a thing.
Yeah,
it's a
I
thing.
don't
just
do it.
love-
I've never done it. But
I love how Perloff is saying that Christmas morning in the James household that there's like a 10-speed Schwinn under the tree. thanks 2-3 for hooking me up with the Schwinn. I'm just gonna go drive my Ferrari though.
It's probably under tree 10.
You know,
Multiple trees.
One thing about LeBron, you guys might not like everything he does, like nobody does. I find some of his sort of lies and sort of hyperbole annoying. But I love that he sits on the couch on Sunday and watches 10 hours of football just like the rest of us. He has morphed into a middle-aged dad sports fan. And I think guys like us, Bogus, we should be supporting LeBron, not questioning him for bringing his son in. That's the kind of thing we would do.
The entire summer dismissing his love of USA basketball. But now here you are telling me to blindly support him?
Well,
You called BS on every Olympic thing he talked about. You
Right,
couldn't
because
stand him.
I think it's kind of pathetic that he realizes he can't win another NBA title, so he is pretending that winning this gold medal is a big deal. But I still love the dad
this
aspect.
isn't pathetic.
No, I love the dad
Dragging
aspect.
your son along into the NBA.
What is the matter with you guys? Like, what is the point of everything? Like, we want to make our kids' lives better. That's the only thing that's important. I mean,
and I don't think
we've
right now
all
he's
peaked.
making his kid's life better.
Well, that's a point. How is it bad to get your kid drafted in the NBA? What have
We're
you?
sitting here making fun of him because his dad forced him into the NBA.
He averaged 2 points in college. I mean, really?
I thought it was 4. That's 50%. That's 100% below what he actually averaged. Okay.
And
You know what?
Starts to change.
You
and
know
comes
what?
on our side.
I think we need to set a rule right now. And I don't know where you stand on this, Maggie, but if there's a cute moment with LeBron and Bronny in the fall, you guys cannot celebrate it, enjoy it, smile.
I won't.
Okay, fine.
Swear.
I love this story. What if there's an alley-oop and you see the video? You have to say, this is not fun because you guys are wrong. This could be great. What else is there to watch in October with basketball or November? This is the only storyline that is interesting in any way.
The day I'm celebrating anything LeBron, there's something else going on in my life.
That's how we'll know that
cause of
Pete's been
concern.
taking captured. You know, if he starts sending out tweets like "I love LeBron," we'll know to come find you immediately. Someone has overtaken you.
There's Bronny.
By the way, LeBron does throw the ball to Max Christie, who was a second-round pick who they just re-signed. He's not a bad player, Bogue. So I think this is all going to work out.
And I bet Max called him dad last summer.
All right. Thank you, Andrew Bogus. Coming up next.
You're not welcome.
Pops.
After the Georgia Tech, Florida State disaster, we're going to try and pick the next upset in college football. That's right here. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff show. We had a really fun discussion just now about Bronny James calling LeBron dad, and EJ revealed that his fiance calls her parents by their first name, and that's just sitting with me as so strange. Imagine in the movie Field of Dreams if Kevin Costner, the key line, and said, "Want to have a catch, Bill?" Like, you got to say dad. If you don't call your parents by mom and dad, I'm sorry. I love your fiance, EJ. We haven't had the pleasure of meeting her yet, but you got to call your parents mom and dad. When you become a dad, EJ, accept nothing else. All right. Okay, so Georgia Tech, Florida State. We all sort of seen that coming. Ireland, there's some funny spreads that happen over there. Florida State lost all their players. I did not see it coming. I have Florida State in the 12-team playoff. Maggie, I'm not sure how you felt about that, but we're going to be on top of it for week 1 of this year. Let's both give one upset to watch. Why don't you get it started off?
Yeah, I think that the one I'm looking at is could USC, pull an upset over LSU. This is an awesome one to start off in Las Vegas. So you got a neutral site for both of these teams. It's a 4.5-point spread. LSU is favored. And I'm not so sure that USC might come out and show people something here. And here's why. Both of these teams are actually dealing with some very similar kind of obstacles coming into this season, changing of quarterbacks, trying to get a better defense, coaches in year 3, trying to, build in the program and make their first playoff with these new schools. And the fact of the matter is both of these teams have some pretty tough schedules. I mean, welcome to the Big Ten USC. You've got to play Michigan, Penn State, and then obviously, they always have Notre Dame, who's independent. LSU this year, Ole Miss, A&M, Bama, Oklahoma. I mean, it's murderer's row. So to me, it's got to be everything. This has got to be a kitchen sink game one. Can't hold anything back. And if I'm USC, this is a really important game to me to sort of show, hey, I'm going to be a factor this year, maybe in the conversation for the 12-team playoff.
I love it. I have the Heisman long shot on Moss, so I'm all about that. But the only thing I would maybe nitpick here, does that really feel like a huge upset? It's a little bit of the brands of USC and LSU. I'm not sure. Even if LSU loses that game, I'm not sure that's a devastating blow to them.
Oh, I think so. Because how many losses, unless you end up somehow rebounding and playing for the SEC title and winning the SEC title, look at how good and stacked the SEC is this year. How many losses can you really afford? I think 2 is probably going to be the most to get an at-large bid. Yeah. And so I just mentioned the other teams on the schedule. Do we really think that LSU would run the table after this? That's asking a lot.
Well, LSU, though, I mean, you say, too, if LSU loses this game and then has a great SEC run, maybe there's a 3, and if there was a 3, a team like LSU would be it. Also, LSU recovered really well after losing last year in the same situation to Florida State.
That's true.
I'm going to go a little wild here in honor of Georgia Tech. Shocking the world I think they were 10-point dogs. How about my Hawaii, who played Delaware State last week? Delaware State, they won 35-14, closer than we thought. I think Delaware State was so fired up after their travel issues. I think it bonded the team, and you saw the best possible Delaware State Hornets team, and Hawaii still won that game kind of handily. Now they're going up against UCLA with a new coaching staff. I think people forget that Eric Bieniemy landed at UCLA, I believe. I think UCLA is a program that has been up and down, but they could go down. And this has nothing to do with Deshaun Foster's strange press conference. I feel like this is kind of a newish setup in UCLA, and that makes them vulnerable for a wild upset. We haven't really seen Hawaii football do anything in a really, really long time. Loved their head coach, Timmy Chang, as a player. He challenged all the records as a passer. So I expect Hawaii to try and catch them off balance. There's a lot of reporting that they held back their playbook, that they're ready to go this week against UCLA, and it's a 13.5-point spread. I think that they're going to see very funny things with new coaches and new teams this year.
Yeah, it's so funny, right? That Eric Bieniemy, from Patrick Mahomes being his offensive coordinator to the Washington Commanders, didn't go very well, but it usually doesn't for people in that team. And then now the offensive coordinator for UCLA, not even the head coach. And so, I mean, his stamp could be huge on UCLA. Now, they obviously, lost their defensive coordinator, D'Anthony Lynn, who went over to USC because they needed so much help. So I don't know about UCLA falling here. Man, I could see you taking up the Rainbows and the Rainbow Warriors and becoming like the biggest Hawaii fan I know. This would be such an Andrew Perloff move.
Oh, yeah.
If they beat UCLA, I imagine you head to toe, decked out. So you're picking Hawaii. I'm picking USC over LSU. Can we talk a little about Notre Dame and Texas A&M for a minute?
Sure.
Because this is a really small spread. At the last I saw was 2.5. A&M is favored here. So it wouldn't be considered any kind of massive upset if Notre Dame wins this game in Kyle Field. But I can't tell if most people are expecting Notre Dame to go down there and win, even though they are slight underdogs in this game.
Well, I mean, Notre Dame's the number 7 team in the country, and Texas A&M is the number 20 team. So, yeah, and that way you expect a win. But, again, Notre Dame, they have such a ridiculously easy schedule, and they're Notre Dame. I don't know that there's urgency here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Notre Dame is one of those programs where you really can't hide. And, yeah, you can lose, but it's going to be a huge deal. And
this might be the only hard game on their entire schedule until the end. Like somehow they figured it all out. I mean, you have Purdue's and all those sort of lower end different teams. I don't think they need to win this game, and I think that might weigh on people when they're looking. Texas A&M, they need a win big time. I feel like pressure and incentive is with the Aggies.
Well, you're right. I mean, in their home. So, yeah, obviously Mike Elko, new head coach, totally understand the pressure there. But I'm just curious about this from the Notre Dame side of things. They had some injuries late in camp, particularly along the offensive line. That's never what you want. Riley Leonard, the transfer from Duke, quarterback coming over, he's dealt with some injury issues also. And, I think Notre Dame is the kind of place where the coach is always like not on the hot seat, but like it's always a conversation. And Freeman, so far, has he really done enough to say this is our guy, no doubt, for the next 5 years?
The guy can recruit. I think it's okay. If they lose Maggie, we'll make a big deal of the moment, then we'll forget by the end of the season. All right, we're going to shift to the NFL next. There's a Super Bowl contender that has a major issue. The offseason is not over yet. That's next. Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. Andrew Perloff here in the New York studio. Maggie Gray in the New Jersey man cave. You can watch her new setup on the Infinity Sports Radio Network YouTube page. Looking good. But I'll tell you who's not looking good, Mag. My San Francisco 49ers. And I say my San Francisco 49ers because, of course, that's the first team I was looking at as an NFC Super Bowl team. They were there last year. I keep on contending the window is still open as long as you have Kyle Shanahan, as long as you have Nick Bosa, Christian McCaffrey, Fred Warner, all these stars. But I got to tell you, I'm getting a little nervous. I am getting nervous. Not about Brandon Aiyuk, the wide receiver who's holding out, but I am nervous about Trent Williams, the all-world left tackle who wants more money.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say that this is going great. And we might get news that he's fine and they're going to rework the contract. But, you know, again, how long does this stuff take? And he might not need a lot of training camp. He's a veteran. He's 35 years old or thereabouts. He knows how to take care of himself and take care of his body. But, I mean, he did miss games last year, so it's not going to be perfect when you're that age. You're always susceptible to injury. And to be fair, like, you know, this has got to be, like, really beyond all in for them. And I know you and I will disagree on this because you think their window is open forever. I don't see it that way. I think that teams change a lot. And once they pay Brock Purdy, there's going to be even more difficult decisions that they're going to have to make. So this season, when you have the band still together, you have, you know, so many of your high quality players are in their prime, and Trent Williams maybe in his late prime. I don't see these infinite amount of chances. I don't see that, you know, that this gets to happen and go on forever and ever and ever, and the 49ers get 100 more bites at the apple to try to get a Super Bowl. And Christian McCaffrey limping around, as we saw reports of that last week, you know, you can't say you feel awesome about them going into the season in the state that they're in right now.
Well, the reason I think that their window is open because they are, I think, a fundamentally different team when they made the Super Bowl in 2019 and almost beat the Chiefs. They were up against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Trent Williams wasn't there for that. Christian McCaffrey wasn't there for that. Brock Purdy certainly wasn't there for that.
Right.
So I think that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, the GM, have been able to redefine their team. It looks like they had another really great draft. It's like everyone's saying, oh, man, they killed it again. These guys look amazing in the preseason. So they like the Rams, can get late-round picks who immediately fill in if you're a smart team. That's why I think their window is open. But this, to me, probably this Trent Williams thing, I not that I don't care about Brandon Aiyuk, but they obviously have Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, at least to start the season. They can survive without Brandon Aiyuk. You know how many sacks Trent Williams led up last year, Maggie?
None.
Yep. He played 15 games, but that's a zero. And when he was out those 2 games, they certainly missed him. That one makes me nervous. And the other thing is, it's a referendum year on Brock Purdy. We both agree on that. He has a contract coming up, and he's still the most polarizing, I think, one of the most polarizing quarterbacks in the NFL. We had Mike Sando from The Athletic doing his quarterback tiers yesterday, and Sando said it well, like, nobody can determine, is Purdy good or is the system good? I'm not sure which way you lean, Maggie, but you have to admit, without Trent Williams there, it's going to be a lot harder for Brock Purdy.
No doubt. I mean, I've been called a Purdy hater, you know, because I just did not think that he was the MVP of the league, let alone his team last year, and I got a lot of slings and arrows for that, but I said this last week, and I'll double down on it. All these things, the Trent Williams contract, the Brandon Aiyuk contract, who does this hurt the most? It hurts Purdy. And just because I don't think he's the MVP of the team doesn't mean he's not important. And you're right, this is a massive year for him. And the other thing you don't want, Purdy talking about how, he wants to take more on his shoulders and he wants to be the guy and comparing himself to Tom Brady at the end of games and he wants to be that dude. And that's all well and good. But you also need to have the pieces around you. I think that Brock Purdy is one of those players who there's a reason why he's not a tier 1. He's not Mahomes. He's not Joe Burrow or Josh Allen who can go out and win the game on their own. I don't think he's that level, and that's fine. Look how much success they've had with him. But these two specific things they only hurt Purdy. Like not having Trent Williams or having him be, limited. Having Christian McCaffrey, who might be is he going to be on a pitch count to start the season with this calf injury? And then to not have Aiyuk, who, whatever you think of Aiyuk, if you think he's worth $30 million or not, or we can talk about this till we're blue in the face, he's important to Purdy. And the numbers bear that out. In an offense that has lots of weapons and lots of options, Purdy and Aiyuk are a great connection. And that can't be denied. So do the thing that helps your quarterback the most. And I don't see the 49ers doing that in this offseason.
Well, I mean, listen. They have to think about this little thing called the salary cap. I know it seems like it's fake because everyone signs everybody, but they have major, major problems coming next year. So I think they're thinking about that. They gave some guys some extra money this offseason, like McCaffrey. But, hey, my guy Ricky Pearsall is practicing again, I believe.
Yeah,
they
great.
drafted this kid, Jacob Cowing, in the 5th round, who looks like the fastest player on the team at wide receiver. I think Jawan Jennings is pretty good too. I understand what you're saying. Yes, of course you want Aiyuk out there, but just hand the ball to Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell 1,000 times. I don't know if actually Elijah Mitchell, how healthy he is.
No, I think they actually, I think he's very not healthy. We got that update yesterday, right?
They gave it to Jordan Mason, who came in, he'll rip off a 6-yard run. I'm a big system guy, Maggie, and I think that they can survive all this, except Trent Williams. He seems like a very significant injury. Hey, we have an important...
Sorry, Elijah Mitchell out for the season.
Oh, okay.
FYI.
I did say I'm looking at him on the IR. Well, that's not good. That's but I'm never going to move a line based on running backs. Okay, we have an important hard-hitting poll at Maggie and Perloff.
Okay.
Maggie, you ready for results? It's really close.
Okay.
Is it weird to call your parents by their first name, yes or no? This is off the LeBron James conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. LeBron doesn't want Bronny to call him dad on the court. Now, EJ Stewart informs us that his fiance calls her parents by their first name. So is it weird to call your parents by their first name? We got 94% say yes, it is weird. And I'm actually shocked who these 6% are. It's completely unacceptable to call your parents by their first name.
I mean, early results here, right? There's still time. Is there a reason, EJ, that Andrea calls her parents by their first name? Like, you don't have to spill any family secrets if there's, something there you don't want on the air. Or is it just kind of a tradition?
No, I think that it's something that I think the way she described to me was that it started kind of as a joke.
Right.
Her parents just didn't care. And it was actually more of her brother. Her younger brother did it as being a rebellious child.
Yeah.
And her parents just didn't really care. So they just kept doing it. And now that they're adults, now they're like, well, it makes more sense. Now you're an adult. Just call you by your first name. Yeah. But again, Andrea and her brother are not the first people I've met that do this. I've seen, when I was a kid, people do this. And I always thought it was weird. I call my mom and dad, mom and dad. I feel like I always call them mom and dad, mom and dad. But I'm just saying.
Wait, hold on.
Actually, it's the exact same thing as Bronny and LeBron James. Once you open the can of worms, you can't put the can of worms back in. So once my future in-laws allowed that to be the case, it was over. So if you're LeBron James, you're gonna allow Bronny to call you 2-3 or GOAT. That's what you're gonna be for the rest of your life. Learn from my in-laws.
EJ,
LeBron?
Can I just tell you the great opportunity that you have in front of you now that you are engaged and you and Andrea will be married? You can start calling her parents mom and dad if you wanted to. And then it'd be the irony that their blood relatives don't call them mom and dad, but their son-in-law calls them mom and dad. And I think you should take that opportunity just for the comedy.
Wait, Maggie, do you call your in-laws mom and dad?
I do not call my in-laws mom and dad.
Yeah, I'm not down with that. I don't either. I'm not thrilled about this idea of calling your in-laws mom and dad.
Well,
I've always found it weird.
Can I tell you what's happened now? And I wonder if this is true with any other people out there. Now, my in-laws have nicknames for themselves as far as grandma and grandpa, and I just started calling them that.
Well, that's what I was wondering, too. What do you call your grandparents? Because that has a much wider range of possibilities.
Totally. Sometimes you're not even close to the hole on what the person's name is or grandmother. Some things get really, really out there, which is great. It's good for the kids. I just start calling my in-laws, by their pet names that my kid calls them.
So my grandfather insisted on being called by his first name, which kind of supports your theory, EJ. He's like, call me Bob. I don't want to be grandpa. So it's Bob and grandma were my parents' parents.
Was this about not wanting, that's probably something about being very proper, right? Or being very formal? Or was it, I don't want to acknowledge that I'm old?
I have no idea because I was too young to remember when this was established. I have no idea why he wanted to be called Bob, but he definitely was all about Bob. And then our kids, so my dad was like, well, why did they call me Tom? And my kids don't even know my first name, so they couldn't remember Tom. So they just called. Actually, my kids barely know my name. I think it took them to about 8 years old to know I was Andrew. They have no idea what my grandparents' names are.
We taught our kid our names just in case somehow he got separated or something. I don't know what we were thinking, but we've taught him our names, our real names, and then he gets a little obsessed with it. Then he'll introduce me and go, hi, I'm Lucas. This is my mom, Maggie. And I'm like, no lies. He's 5 years old, and this is how he will introduce us to people.
What is your 5-year-old is the front man here when the Gray family goes out?
No doubt. He's the cutest one, so we just put him up to the front.
Andrew Bogus just stepped in. I feel like he might want to weigh in on this topic.
Well, the grandparent name thing is really significant to me because I don't have a grandpa or a grandma. My mom's parents were Honey and Poppy. Mm-hmm. And right now, from my kids, we have a Gammy.
We had a Gammy.
And my dad is Poppy.
We had a Pops.
And then my mother-in-law is Bama. I don't remember where that came from, but that's what my kids call her.
Roll Tide.
Bama, like Roll Tide?
No, it's not Bama. It's like Bama.
Huh?
Yeah, I don't remember right now where that came from. But so no one has a regular name in my family.
It's a baby or toddler mispronouncing grandma. Bama. That's so cute. But I don't know. That's kind of hard to remember. And it's explain again. It's not Bama because it sure sounds like you said Bama.
No, there's extra A's. It's not it's just not B-A-M-A. There's extra A's in there the way you pronounce it.
Gonna be honest, it'd be great if it was we call her Alabama Slammer. Actually, the kids really got into that one. That shot in college was really goes down smooth.
Did anybody use their grandparents' last name, like Grandma Jones or Grandpa? Because I've heard that in general, but I never met anybody that actually did it that way.
Well, my mother-in-law and my mother have the same first name, so we do sometimes do that. They're both Carol.
Okay,
Carol Peterson and Carol Perloff. Shout out.
It's a really good grandmother name.
Yeah.
Carol. Nobody's named Carol anymore, so I think it fits. You ever met a baby named Carol?
Well, my future mother-in-law is Carolyn, so close.
Carolyn's acceptable, but I don't think moms and dads are naming kids Carol anymore. It's one of those names from the 50s or whatever. Okay.
It's like with Ernest.
So what we do too, and maybe you guys relate to this, one set of grandparents lives in Boston and the other live in Philadelphia. So that is how we distinguish them. It's Philadelphia grandma and grandpa and Boston grandma and grandpa.
That makes sense.
You just got to make up individual names like me, and then you got no problem.
Are we sharing way too many inane details about our lives right now? But that poll was close, EJ. 94% think you guys have a weird system on naming. Sorry.
Hey, I thought it was weird when I first met Andrea, but this is the life I've chose. I'm just saying, LeBron, this is your life. Get ready to be part of the 7%.
All right. You can give us a call, 855-212-4227, and tell us how you label your grandparents.
Would you call LeBron dad?
Yeah. Or you could tell us, do you think the San Francisco 49ers are in trouble? Maggie says yes. I say it's a system. 855-212-4227. Shout out to all the gammies and poppies out there. All right, coming up, Maggie and I are going to have some fun. Forget what's going to happen on the field. What is the off-field NFL storyline you're most excited for? That's coming up next on the Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break.
Bruce was perked on top of this game, but Maggie and Perloff played a different name. Caught up with Kevin Butler, the kicker of lore, but where was Peter Bellotti? He's out the door. Peter Bellotti, where could he be? Off on an adventure, sipping iced tea. Never at his desk, always on the run. Works a suggestion, not something he's done. Bush is tired, he's done with the show, but Peter Bellotti's got places to go. Is he on a beach or out for a cruise? Peter's always missing, it's old news. Peter Bellotti, where could he be? Off on an adventure, sipping iced tea. Never at his desk, always on the run. Works a suggestion, not something he's done. Hiking up in the hills, or just avoiding those office drills. But when it's time to work, don't even try. Peter's on a break, just waving goodbye. Peter Bellotti, where could he be? Off on an adventure, sipping iced tea. Never at his desk, always on the run. Works a suggestion, not something he's done. He's hiking up in the hills, or just avoiding those office thrills. But when it's time to work, don't even try. Peter's on a break, just waving goodbye. Peter's on a break, just waving goodbye. No! So Andrew's waiting, the update's delayed, while Peter's off on his endless parade. But one thing's for sure, it's easy to see. Peter Bellotti's work ethic, it's absentee.
OP for Do Bellotti. What could he be? Off on an adventure or sipping iced tea?
Maya Leava. Maya Leava. Maya Leava.
One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Back on Maggie and Perloff. Perloff here in New York. The regular studio, Maggie in her home studio, her well-decorated home studio. All right, it's getting close to on-field prediction time, which is very hard to do. I'm grinding. I'm sure you are, Maggie, too. But let's have a little fun. Mags, what's the off-field storyline that you are most excited about coming into this season? So non-football, something that's happening off the field, in the stands, or whatever you want.
Okay, so this actually came across my timeline yesterday, and it was courtesy of our friends over at WFAN who had Scott Hansen from Red Zone on with the afternoon show with Evan and Sean Moraz, commonly known by this audience. And Scott Hansen revealed that they are actually going to stagger the schedule on Sundays to not totally front load the 1 o'clock Eastern window and then leave that 4 o'clock Eastern window to have like 2 games in it. He said now we're going to see like 4 games, 3 and 4 games, most likely 4 in that afternoon window. And I love that because if you're someone like us and you're watching a lot of games, you got to keep tabs on everything. To have 8 games at 1 o'clock Eastern and then 2 games at 4 o'clock, it's just really unbalanced. I'd much rather even things out. So I'm excited about that. It's kind of nerdy, but I'm pumped for it.
Wow. Feel the energy. What are you talking about? I am so worn out after that witching hour between 3:45 and 4:15. I'm so relieved I don't have to pay attention to Colton McCoy playing for the Cardinals, which is always on some version of a backup quarterback of the Cardinals. I need that break from 4 to 7 where it's 3 crappy games and one of them becomes a blowout. So I actually disagree with you on that. I thought we were doing fun off-field storylines. That's an on-field storyline, Maggie. Like
2 witching hours. 2 witching hours now.
That's
that could
very
be legit.
Specifically an on-field story, though.
Well, I mean, it's more like a how's your day kind of split up. Yeah, sometimes after that first switching hour, you can feel like you need to go out and like have a smoke because it's such a crazy final finish for those games. But I like staggered. I'm thinking about the whole day. I'm going to a holistic approach here.
Okay, so I think I am more in the spirit of here. I was thinking about a lot of fun things that are happening around the game, fun things. But I'm sorry, last year it was the biggest storyline. It's going to be even bigger this year. It's all about Taylor Swift, Maggie, and you know that.
Not again.
So they're coming up. They're going to hit a year this season, right? So they started, I think, at the beginning of last year sometime. I can't even remember when. So we know what happens. We're all married here, and one of us is engaged, EJ. The pressure is going to mount. Will he or won't he? That is going to be the biggest storyline of the year. When is he going to pop the question? I am looking at the schedule right now, Maggie. They play, they have a week 13 game against Vegas. That's in KC. I don't know. I think he's going to score a touchdown and run over the sideline and get on a knee, and not a knee like kneeling after a kickoff. I think it's happening this offseason. I think we're all going to be watching her body language. It's time, Maggie. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift will get engaged.
Wow, and you think it's going to be an in-stadium proposal?
I think it's going to be on the big camera. It's going to be great.
Jumbotron?
This would be historic. They play at Buffalo in Week 11. Wouldn't that be cool? No, I just think that it's got to happen soon. What is the window? It's got to be between a year and 2 years. Everyone knows that they're going to get married. I am so convinced right now they can't break up. They're just too beloved.
Listen, as someone from upstate New York, there is no more romantic city in the world than Buffalo. But I don't see the in-season, in-stadium proposal happening. But you're right. We're getting a whole nother year of this. And by the way, congrats to the Kelceys for signing that $100 million contract for their podcast. But Taylor should get a cut of that because these guys are interesting and they're former players and that's great and they're stars. But you're telling me without Travis dating Taylor Swift that they're getting $100 million for the pod?
We talked about this on the pre-production call. I'm not sure. I think you're underestimating New Heights. That was a big, big deal. And $100 million for a pod is not as crazy as you're making it sound.
No, but what propelled them to number one? They were not number one until one very significant thing started to happen.
No. I would look back at that. They were number one before Taylor Swift became public. They were wildly popular.
All right. I don't know if they were consistently beating Barstool and some of these other things. I think she gets a cut. Now, I'm not saying she needs 50%, but like an agent, 10%, depending on what kind of deal you sign, maybe 15%. They should be hitting her off with something.
Right, but I'm sure she needs the money. Okay, I got a game. It's Wednesday, December 25th, Christmas Day. It's only on Netflix. I don't know if Taylor has a deal with Netflix, but that just
Disney.
seems...
Disney Plus.
Ah, darn it. You're right. And she's on. They play on Peacock the week before. Man. Then I guess I have to look for an ABC, ESPN. Okay, Monday, November 4th. They're playing on Monday night, ESPN versus Tampa Bay. Disney. That seems to be a perfect fit. In KC, get engaged, have a post-game concert. I don't know. Film it, put it on Disney Plus. It's got to happen. All right, let me ask you this. Do you think they'll get engaged this year?
Not during the season.
Huh.
No,
so it's
I don't
an
think so.
off-season move. Because do you think it would seem like Travis Kelce was in focus?
Well, I mean, listen, the guy's everywhere, and he's about to be even more places, so he's obviously cool with the off-field stuff. But I think that this is his probably final year. Let it play out. I don't think she's going anywhere. She's been in long-term relationships a lot, so no, I don't think you have to do it this season. I think you can hold off. You can do it in the off-season. It's going to be some big production on some beach somewhere in Tahiti or something, and they'll do it that way.
Yeah, I don't know if you have great radar on this story, Maggie. You were off in the beginning.
It's true.
I think because you're not a romantic. You're a cynic and a realist.
Yeah, I'm still not 100% sure that they're both in this for the right reasons, but we're all going with it.
You think he's not in it because she's clearly in love with the hunky football player.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're both getting a lot out of this beyond the companionship, but listen, that's just because I'm a cynic. But you're right. I haven't read this thing the right way. An in-season proposal? I mean, good grief. Just buy a hammer and hit us all over the head with it. Sheesh, just get it over with.
Maybe it'll be low-key. Like maybe he'll do the, hey, want to get married? That kind of like, you've seen that before where they're just at dinner and he just pops a question.
Yeah, it's funny you talked about are they coming up on like a year anniversary. I feel like we have to backdate the relationship like a pitcher going on the IL. It's like when did we first know about it, and then we backdated a couple weeks from there. I don't know when they actually started dating, but it's definitely the story. I thought you were going to go with Tom Brady on this one, Pearl. We're talking about our off the field storylines. I thought you were going to say Brady in the booth was your big off the field storyline.
Yeah, it's a big one. I think. I wrote a column for Athlon Sports about how Tom Brady has to relax a little bit, chill out, not make everything an inspirational speech. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be interesting about Brady. Brady says anything. Tell me if you agree with this, Maggie. It's news. Like if he says that Josh Allen is running too much, even if he says it offhandedly in a game, people are going to aggregate that. And because he's Tom Brady, his name carries so much weight. I almost think that's almost an on-field story. He's going to influence so much around the league next year. So I agree. It's going to be just a huge deal having Tom Brady call games.
I thought you really laid out that nicely in that article because you're right. Like Brady's a very inspirational guy, but is that really what you want during a football game?
No.
The grit and the hard work and the toughness. We get that. That's Brady's story, the chip on his shoulder. But we really do want, I think, a lot of the football stuff from him. You're right. Is Josh Allen running too much? Did Caleb Williams, miss an open receiver there? All that stuff, I think, is more what we want. And then you had another great point, which is when if there's ever any dead time or it's a blowout, go straight to the Gronkowski stories. Yeah. It's a great advice for Brady. I hope that he sees that article.
Yeah. Don't do Aaron Hernandez stories. That was another thing I was thinking about. I got to tell you, I have a new perspective on Tom Brady. Maggie, you and I were at Fanatics Fest in New York City, and we saw Tom Brady talking to Stephen A. Smith.
Yep.
Something happened. Last night, I'm watching the Connor Stallions documentary, the guy who was stealing signs at Michigan. He sounded like Tom Brady. He was saying things that were from this Bo Schembechler speech, the team. And that dawned on me, Tom Brady went on and on in the Stephen A. interview about how he was on a team or not a program, like how he was doing Michigan inspirational stuff. Did you make that connection at all, or was it just me?
No, that's fair, and we're going to do our review of the Connor Stallions doc a little bit later on. Surprisingly watchable.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady was saying the same kind of insane things that Connor Stallions was saying. This Michigan man thing, maybe that's where it came from, because I was laying out like, he's way too intense. He said it's a tragedy that rookie quarterbacks are getting in the games too soon. On nobody's mind is that a tragedy. I mean, that's the thing. Like, Tom Brady's just so intense right now.
Yeah, he does have to dial it back a little, and that's hard because he's attacking this thing like he's about to go play, and it's a different medium. You know, you've got to you want to have energy. And you don't want to be Romo, though, and be too over the top. Like, you got to keep it in the keep the train on the tracks.
Absolutely. All right, Andrew Bogusch is in with headlines.
And I don't like to be nice to you or confirm your suspicions, but you were right. The New Heights podcast was #1 before Taylor.
Yeah, I don't know why exactly. I don't love player podcasts, but those guys are super funny. But honestly, you're sitting of all the podcasts to listen to, that was ahead of Barstool and Bill Simmons and everything.
Yeah, but I still agree with Maggie's point that Amazon and Wondery are paying to be Taylor adjacent.
Yeah, no, okay, I can't argue with that, and that's a bargain. $100 million to be Taylor adjacent.
Yeah,
can we get in on that deal?
No. I think I mentioned this to you guys on air a while ago. I'm going to stand with the current members of the U.S. flag football team against the NFL guys who want to be Olympians in 2028. That being said, Darrell Doucette is on his own, saying he's better than Patrick Mahomes. And now Micah Parsons enters the chat.
Whatever his comments about Patrick Mahomes was absolutely crazy. But, I don't blame him. I had this conversation with Kevin Durant. I said, you don't think I could guard someone in the NBA? He was like, yo, don't disrespect my league like that. They are on the U.S. flag football team. We don't really know the rules. We don't really know, the glitches, the movements that they do. Like, I seen some of his highlights, and I'm like, we'll compete.
Micah, though, game for trying to be an Olympian in 28.
We've been playing 7-on-7 our whole life. It's different. That's his home court. Like, I do think there will be a learning period, like anything. Just feel like he's taking the wrong approach about it. I'm not saying I could come in and start right now, but I'm saying I could probably make the team. I'm going to come out there and compete. I'm going to try to make that team. No doubt about it. They said, Mike, come try for the USA team. I will be there. There's no doubt about it. I got to win me a gold medal.
That's all from The Edge with Micah Parsons.
Slight issue here. How does he not know the rules of flag football? Are they that? I understand if you're in Hungary, you might not know the rules of flag football, but Micah Parsons should know the rules. Are they that different?
So I don't know that they're that different, but it's not just playing like you go run like it's not just football. There are even position names are different. Like if you go to the roster of USA flag football, there are guys listed at things that that are not regular football positions. They have weird names. So it's not just like football at an offensive line and tackling. There are differences, but they are certainly overcomable for Micah Parsons and his buddies.
Yeah, did we all play flag football in 3rd grade? It's not that hard.
So here's a question, though. Say it's 2028 Los Angeles, and say the Dallas Cowboys are still doing that cowboy thing where they're getting to the playoffs, but they're losing. Dak Prescott's on a lifetime deal. Mike McCarthy's on a lifetime deal. Everyone's gotten paid, but no Super Bowl. Everyone's going to be okay with Micah Parsons just going to L.A. and playing? I don't think so.
Yeah, I totally agree. Bogues, explain yourself.
It'd be a massive controversy.
I mean, is this going to be a thing?
Yes.
The NFL, you think so?
I think NFL wants their guys in this, so it will be a thing.
Maybe I PTSD and I do not want to wish this on any NFL player. I'm very concerned somebody's going to get hurt. I think it's going to happen.
Right before the season.
Yeah, it's right before the season. Guys aren't in the kind of training camp shape at that point in time. They should be building themselves up to the NFL season, not playing in some random flag football tournament. I want to see it, but this sounds like it's going to be a disaster.
You think injury, EJ? Is that what you're pointing to?
Yeah, I think injury. I just think we see these guys get these nicks and knacks even in training camp, just like building up to the NFL season. Now they're going to be playing in high pressure. I don't know how much pressure you're getting from New Zealand, but like they're playing in high intensity games. They're trying to win. Like there's a little bit more that goes into it. There's more competition. I think that lends itself to an injury. No.
Well, I have a question. What about the guys who just barely miss the cut? Like somebody who'd be in a spring league, for example. Like I saw my guy Devin Leary got cut yesterday, quarterback from Kentucky. Like, why don't you have those guys be the flag? They must be better than the current flag football players. Bogusch. Again, we're looking at you as the authority here.
Yeah, I just think that like my point is that there are people playing flag football right now, and it would suck if they represent USA flag football up until the best possible way to represent the U.S. And then all of a sudden these guys come parachuting in, whether it's Devin Leary or Patrick Mahomes, to take their spot. Like, they're doing the heavy, not the heavy lifting, but they're doing the work now. Like, they're playing an event. They just had the World Championships, and that dude apparently played really well. The QB who thinks he's better than Mahomes. So this guy gets to do all of this, but in 4 years, you go, thanks for all of that, but never mind. You can't go to L.A.?
I think we should do a poll at Maggie and Pearl on X. Who should the U.S. team play, the current guys or bring in an all-star NFL team? I think it's going to be pretty lopsided.
Also, how far does saying I'm the Patrick Mahomes of flag football get you? What is that? What kind of perks do you get in your life? Maybe a gold medal. Be like, I'm the Patrick Mahomes of flag football. It's like, well, right this way, sir. Let's get you to the best table in the restaurant. I don't know what that gets you.
So I actually watched this guy's highlight reel, Darryl Doucette. Like, he plays nothing like he plays almost like a running back. Like, I when I was watching the highlights, I didn't actually know he was a quarterback until towards the end where I actually saw him make some throws. I'm wondering, with Micah Parsons talking about the rules, I do kind of wonder, is it more valuable to be like a Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson type guy than to just be a guy who mostly throws and can't run away from people? Because this guy was basically playing running back and then just throwing the ball every couple plays.
Can we actually get Michael Vick? That'd be awesome.
That would be amazing.
How about RG3 is only 34 and can't get a job?
I
Put
know.
him out there.
RG3 is getting fired by television networks. He should go win a gold medal.
He'd be amazing. Can you imagine trying to cover RG3 if you're from Romania and barely know the rules?
What else we got?
What else we have? We have actual regular football news. Some of the bigger names cut on roster cutdown day yesterday. Falcons QB Desmond Ritter, Cardinals QB Desmond Ritter, Lions QB Nate Sudfeld, Chiefs receiver Kadarius Toney, and Bills running back Frank Gore Jr. Baseball last night, the Orioles got a 3-2 win at Dodger Stadium after the Yankees committed 4 errors and lost in Washington 4-2. So Baltimore's now 1 game behind New York for first in the AL East. The White Sox didn't lose again last night because their game with the Tigers was suspended by rain after just 4 pitches. They'll play 2 today. Asia Wilson scored 42 points, but her Aces lost in Dallas 93-90. The Wings winning back-to-back games for just a second time this year. And day 2 of the U.S. Open included the longest match in event history, at least since tiebreakers began back in 1970. Dan Evans outlasted Karen Khachanov in 5 hours and 35 minutes, 9 more minutes than 1992's Edberg Chang semifinal. In the more usual time frame, Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, Iga Swiatek, and Jess Pegula among the winners yesterday. Round 2 begins today. Coco Gauff and Novak Djokovic have the night session at Arthur Ashe Stadium.
I was thinking about this for the wrestling fans as who are part of the show. Yesterday when Jessica Pegula beat her opponent, this is someone who she's been playing against since she was a junior. And so, unfortunately, this woman, her opponent had all these injuries, and they kind of knew this could be her last match ever, and she ended up retiring after the match. But it reminded me, for the wrestling fans, of, like, the final Ric Flair when he went out, and I know he ended up coming back, but when
Shawn Michaels match?
Shawn Michaels, thank you. When he goes and just like mouths to him, I'm sorry, and then goes and kicks him with and takes him out. It was kind of like Jessica Pegula taking out her friend who they've been playing together since, they were 10 years old or something.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
First thing I thought of, too, Flair and Michaels.
Yeah.
It comes to mind so easily.
I'm just so impressed that he didn't call the guy in the long match Karen, as I've been doing all night. Karen, Kachakov, or whatever his name is. That was Karen, huh?
Yeah, I mean, he's not from Illinois, so he's a guy, so it's definitely not Karen.
Oh my gosh! And who is Dan Evans, by the way? There's an American tennis player. I've never heard of him in my life.
I'm not actually sure if Dan Evans is American. He might be British or Australian.
Well, that would explain it.
Yeah,
restaurant.
He's British.
That's Bob
right.
Evans.
Bob Evans. Wait, does Pete know about our bet, by the way? Our newest bet? Pete's fresh off vacation. Hi. Do you know the new bet that's happening between me and Perloff?
I do not.
Well, here you go. Hold on to your hat.
I have no hat, but I will.
Or hair.
I was going to say that.
All right, we don't have to get technical here, guys. Buy a hat and hold on to it because this is the new bet, Pete. Perloff and I do not agree on whether Dak Prescott's going to be the quarterback for the Cowboys past this season. So if he is gone after this year, I have to go to a Waffle House, sit there for 24 hours, and for every waffle I eat, 1 hour gets lopped off the time. It's a send-up to a fantasy football team league that use this as a punishment for their loser, and we're sort of graciously and generously borrowing for them. But I might lose this bet like in 24 hours. I thought I was going to have the whole season. We could tease this thing out. You know, we could sit on it for a while, and I think I'm going to lose this like tomorrow.
Wow. I don't know, Maggie. CeeDee Lamb did sort of say, oh, they're going to get Dak done. And everybody's been saying that, but they've been saying that for weeks and weeks and weeks. And here we are. We're eight days from the season, and nothing's happened. So I'm not counting on that happening. I'm still holding it out there that I might lose this bet.
So what happens if Perloff loses?
I have to eat 24 omelets because I actually bargained with Maggie. I don't want to eat all those waffles. I want to do omelets.
At the Waffle House.
At the Waffle
With
House.
cheese.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's implied. You can't have an omelet without cheese. That's just an egg. So
just put it out there.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, it was a long debate, Pete, about whether I tried to change the terms. And I think I'm an idiot, too, because now the CDC is saying do not eat 72 eggs in 24 hours. Like, I could die.
They're saying that directly back to you?
Yes. I wrote the Mayo Clinic.
I love it. Now they're saying it. Like they changed their policies ever since we shook on this bet.
Yeah. So you're, Maggie, I'm now hearing real nerves from you that you're going to lose this bet.
Well, you mentioned CeeDee Lamb, so I'm watching all the coverage yesterday of him, and he's signing the deal, and he's smiling, and he's got the money gun, and like everything's awesome. And he's like, yeah, now my guy Dak is next. I was like, oh no.
I know.
Wait a minute. I don't want to eat these waffles.
And the fact that they got CeeDee Lamb done makes you think, oh, okay, it's like this wave of positive momentum that might not mean anything. If you try and predict Jerry Jones, Maggie, then you're in trouble.
I feel like somehow he's going to show up at this Waffle House with me, but I don't know if they sell Johnny Walker at the Waffle House.
Okay. All right. I'm all in. All right,
I want
folks.
waffles now.
Yeah, no, I know. Now we're all hungry. I think Pete's interested in getting some of these waffles, too. I think we all have to go, except only one of us is going to have to stay there for 24 hours. Just staying in a Waffle House for 18 hours, that might not be as much fun as it sounds like, but we will see.
Safe.
We will see in the coming days with the Dallas Cowboys. All right, coming up next, we talk about another team that may or may not have some issues, but they're trying to make history next year. I think it's going to be really tough. We'll talk about that next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. The Kansas City Chiefs are trying to become the first team in Super Bowl history to three-peat. Maggie, I read this story actually from my boss at Athlon, Craig Ellenport, looking at the teams that didn't three-peat, and it's crazy how good the teams were that lost. Bill Walsh's Niners, the 90s Cowboys, a Steelers team that was absolutely loaded, the undefeated Miami team, the greatest teams in NFL history could not three-peat. Now, the funny thing is, when I look at the Chiefs are not as impressive as those teams, to be totally frank. They're not the Bill Walsh Niners. Like, they've won the Super Bowl, but it's been narrow margins, and Travis Kelce's getting older. They lost Tyreek Hill. Those teams didn't have the salary cap constraints, and they still lost. Why? And I'm not sure where you stand on this, but I just think that because of that history, I have a hard time picking the Chiefs this year, even if I can convince myself they're the best team. If those teams can't do it, why could the Kansas City Chiefs do it?
Yeah, you forgot the Patriots, too. I mean, Patriots could never do it either.
Absolutely.
This is why I actually am pretty bullish on the Kansas City Chiefs and the fact that they could do this. We had a conversation last week. If Mahomes does this, is he already the GOAT? You know, can you already put him ahead of Brady because it would be so unprecedented to win 3 in a row? Look at all the stuff that the Kansas City Chiefs have been through. You know, they've basically, right, it was a different team last year that got them through the playoffs than the one that won the previous Super Bowl, where this was a defensive-led team. They had to go on the road. You know, you don't have your best receiver. You let Tyreek Hill go. Travis Kelce didn't even have that great of a season. And then all of a sudden the playoffs shows up like the old Travis Kelce and is catching, you know, basically it was the whole first half against the Ravens was all just Mahomes and Kelce just moving the ball down the field. I think there is a couple things why I think they can do this. Clearly, Mahomes can play. He can play hurt. You know, you don't even have to worry whether he's on one leg or two legs. I think they've proven that they can go on the road, so you don't even have to have the number 1 overall seed. You don't have to be 13-4 to pull this off. And I think there's a boogeyman factor about the Chiefs. I do. I think it is, and I don't know if maybe the Bengals are maybe the only team that might not be intimidated by it, but there is a boogeyman factor that they will find a way. And if Mahomes has the ball in his hands last, they are winning and you are losing. And I think that is a big part of it. We can even go off the field if you want. The whole Taylor Swift stuff, all the distractions, Kelsey's going to be in every movie under the sun, Rashee Rice's legal issues, they've been able to overcome all these off-the-field things, some more serious than others, and still, here they are. So I don't know why now they would suddenly fall off.
Is that an analytic measurement, the boogeyman factor? Is that from, is that like war? Okay, yes. You say that about Patrick Mahomes. Like, look at the other quarterbacks I mentioned on those lists of teams that did not three-peat. Joe Montana, Tom Brady, Terry Bradshaw. So those guys had the same thing going on as Mahomes. Listen, the Ravens could have beaten the Chiefs last year in the AFC title game. You know that. Even as badly as they played, they fumbled at the goal line and had an idiotic taunting penalty. Like, the Chiefs are it's just too close. It's too close. I mean, there's too many bounces. Kyle Shanahan takes the ball second. You know, if somebody picks up a blitz on the Niners offensive line, if the Eagles don't have that little holding play, so many things have to go right. What happened to the Chiefs in 2020 when they faced the Bucs? They had 2 tackle injuries, which doesn't seem that devastating, and they completely got blown away. So I just think it's too thin a margin, Maggie. Too much stuff has to go right.
Think about it. They needed Tom Brady had to be on the other side in an all-time moment for Tom where they got to play a Super Bowl in their home field in Tampa that year, that weird COVID year. And that's what it took, basically, the line getting decimated. You mentioned all those great quarterbacks who have never been able to three-peat. Mahomes is just as good or better than any of those guys. And no disrespect to the Joe Montanas and Tom Brady's, but Mahomes is right there as an athlete and as a winner now.
I understand, but okay. Yeah, we're not getting into a GOAT conversation here, but the fact that just having the best quarterback doesn't guarantee anything. That's what I'm saying. Like, Tom Brady couldn't do it. Right. And he's the biggest winner we've ever seen. And Montana's second, and Mahomes, or maybe tied now with Mahomes. So that is not enough. Even Mahomes needs help. And the other thing, too, is like everyone's got to stay healthy. They've had a lot of cap casualties. You know, they lost L'Jarius Sneed. I think that they need a lot to go right. And to go right 3 years in a row seems like a Herculean task to me.
No, you're right. We're talking about can the Chiefs three-peat. I think a lot of things have gone right for them, though. You're saying a lot of things need to. I think a lot of things have. They've been able to retain Steve Spagnuolo, their defensive coordinator.
That was a big one. That was huge. Because usually these champions lose their coordinators. That's a really good point.
They, got Chris Jones back. The year they won the Super Bowl against your Philadelphia Eagles, they had 3 rookies starting in the secondary. I know L'Jarius Sneed is a big loss, and you can't keep everyone, but they found a way to plug and play guys. So I think I look at it more as like a glass half full with the Kansas City Chiefs. Look at all the things they already have overcome, and they still are able to deliver, as opposed to, look at everything that could go wrong. Because again, Mahomes on one leg, Pearl. He can win the Super Bowl on one leg.
Well, I don't know what kind of shot they gave him at halftime, but there weren't that many injuries last year. I mean, you can say a couple here and there, but look at the Niners in 2020 after that Super Bowl. Like, their teams get injured. I mean, you can't predict injuries. That's why it's so hard to do picks. I just don't see it happening. I think if you lose a lineman here, you lose a linebacker there, it's going to be tough. I mean, look at the Niners last year with Dre Greenlaw. I mean, they probably might have won that game. You said this. If Dre Greenlaw was healthy, who wins that game? I'm not so sure it's clear cut.
Yeah, but they keep getting these, I think after a while, you can't just say, they got a lucky bounce here, they got a lucky bounce there. They got a good, the defensive holding call on your guy, James Bradbury. Yeah, but at some point, you're putting yourself in position to be this lucky. And you're putting yourself in position.
They've been unlucky, too. Remember the D Ford offside call against the Patriots? That's my point. In Brady's the same way. Like, these Super Bowls are so close. Brady can win a miracle one against the Falcons, then turn around and lose it. I mean, that's not the order, but he can lose a close one in the Giants. You can get a helmet catch, can go either way. If you're winning all your Super Bowls by 3 points, Maggie, then you need some luck.
Yeah, I mean, good luck betting against them. Here's the other part, too. In the AFC, right? So you have great quarterbacks, and you have some really good coaches, but is there really anyone else that you're taking over Reid now? Maybe Jim Harbaugh has a say at some point with Andy Reid, but I mean, John Harbaugh is a good coach. Who in the AFC, when it's a big game versus Mahomes and Reed, are you saying that coach has the advantage?
Well, I'll tell you right now, our next guest has an answer to that because I listened to his podcast, and I know who he picked to win in the AFC.
Ooh.
That is Sheil Kapadia, who we both absolutely love from The Ringer, is going to join us. I believe he has an official Super Bowl pick. We'll find out if he thinks the Chiefs can repeat. You can weigh in as well. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
We're back, Maggie and Perloff show. Andrew Perloff here in the New York studio. Maggie Gray in the New Jersey man cave with the Buffalo Bills shirts hanging behind her, looking good. You can check us out, Infinity Sports Radio YouTube network. Mag, how you feeling? Everything good? We were just debating, can the Chiefs three-peat? I think you're a little more optimistic than I am. I think it's really, really tough.
Yeah, I mean, they've already overcome so much. They've changed their team. They've won in different ways. They have the best quarterback in the league. No one's denying that. Now that Belichick is gone, at least for this year, they've got the best coach in the league. You could argue with Andy Reid. Kelsey, maybe this is a last ride. They kept their defensive coordinator. I just think there's so much more in the positive side for Kansas City. And yeah, we haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen anyone three-peat yet, but have we seen someone like Mahomes yet?
Yes, and we have. His name is Tom Brady, and he could not three-peat.
Mahomes is a better athlete than Tom and could win a Super Bowl on one leg. We already watched it, but let's get the thoughts of our next guest. We absolutely love him. Sheil Kapadia is a writer and a podcaster for The Ringer. He's got the Ringer NFL show, a show called Philly Special, which I know is very near and dear to Andrew Perloff's heart from Lower Merion. Sheil, thanks so much for the time. How you doing?
Doing well, guys. Thanks for having me.
What do you think? Chiefs three-peat, are you in or out?
Yeah, I'm out, but I was fading the Chiefs last year after they lost that game to the Raiders. I had this big rant about all they're like, you can't win the Super Bowl with this offense. They can't even beat the Raiders on Christmas. They blew it with this, and it had nothing to do with Patrick Mahomes. Let me be clear. I was just like, this supporting cast is not good enough. And honestly, as bad as that take was, because they won the Super Bowl, I kind of feel a similar way this year. You look at what they did offensively. They're starting a rookie at left tackle. The wide receivers are sort of question marks. Defensively, they lose their best cornerback. So can they do it? Of course they can do it. We could do this guest hit before every season for the next 10 years, and you could say, Sheil, could the Chiefs win the Super Bowl? Is Patrick Mahomes there? Yes, they could. But I'm not picking them, I guess I should say.
Sheila, I was just diving into NFL history a little bit. I know you're a bit of an NFL historian. The Steelers had these were great teams that failed the three-peat. I would argue the Steelers, the 70s Dolphins, the 80s Niners, they didn't even have the salary cap issues that the Chiefs had. They could keep their teams. Do you buy that argument that those teams couldn't do it, that this Kansas City team seems like way too far of an assignment?
Yeah, it feels like at some point, maybe in our lifetimes, someone will do it. But your point is a good one. It just speaks to sort of the luck and the randomness and the injuries and all the stuff that's sort of boring to talk about when we do NFL analysis, but really plays a big role in which teams win and lose. I mean, just look at the Chiefs last year. Divisional round, if the Bills hit a 42-yard field goal, that game's tied with 90 seconds left. The Super Bowl, it goes to overtime. It's literally a coin flip game at that point. So when you string together coin flip games over and over again, which you have to do, I understand that it happens with every champ. For that to happen 3 years in a row, it's really hard to kind of fathom.
Sheil Kapadia is joining us from The Ringer. So you said you are not picking the Chiefs. You didn't pick them last year, but that's fine. So who are you picking to come out of the AFC? Do you have your Super Bowl prediction out there yet?
I do. I've got the Cincinnati Bengals getting to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. I think things are set up nicely for the Bengals this year. I think they have the fourth easiest schedule in the NFL. They bring back T. Higgins. Jamar Chase is back practicing. So I think this could be the best offensive line Joe Burrow ever plays behind. We'll see. They have some health stuff there, but I like the Bengals quite a bit. I think Joe Burrow is going to be the MVP. I think they're going to win 12 games. They're my team out of the AFC.
What about how tough that division is, too? Because if you're looking at win totals, like the Ravens could win a bunch, the Browns have a great defense, and the Steelers always win. Does that worry you at all for the Bengals?
Yeah, it does. It's hard to, I always like to be like, all right, who are the two teams that are going to be competing for the 1 seed in each conference? And maybe that won't be them. Maybe they'll sneak in. It'll be 10 or 11 wins. But they've shown they can come up big in the playoffs, whether it's against the Chiefs a couple years ago, whether it was going to Buffalo and beating that Bills team. So I'm not that. Other teams I might be more concerned if they don't have the home field, if they don't have the 1 seed. But yeah, you make a good, that division, I think every team's over-under is at least 8.5, which is crazy to see. Like, they're just all bunched together where nothing would really surprise me.
Sheil Kapadia is joining us. Philly special, the Ringer NFL show, does it all, writes for the Ringer too, picks games against the spread every week. Lots of fun stuff coming from Sheil all season long. There's only 2 ways you can think about the Jets. There's no middle ground here, Sheil. You either think they're winning the Super Bowl. Well, you think the Bengals are going to go to the Super Bowl. But you either think they're having a great season or you think that Rodgers is probably going to get hurt again and the wheels are going to fall off and Robert Saleh will be fired, by Halloween. So where are you on the Jets?
Yeah, it's so true. After the draft, I was at one point. Then at June, I was like, yeah, Sheil, don't go on the record with that. Then July, I changed my mind. And then you get to this time, and as we know, you got to go on the record with what you think is going to happen. I think the Jets are winning the AFC East and making the playoffs. I landed there. I think they've done enough where if guys get injured, which they will get injured, their offensive tackle situation, well, they drafted a guy in the first round. So it's not going to be the end of the world like it was last year if an offensive tackle gets injured. Even Aaron Rodgers, if he goes down 2-3 weeks, a month, something like that. Like Tyrod Taylor is not Joe Montana, but he's not going to be Zach Wilson either. Like you can win with him and a great defense. So I really believe in their defense quite a bit. I think they're going to be awesome once again. I think they did enough offensively around Aaron Rodgers. And I just look at it. You win 7 games with Zach freaking Wilson. You're telling me you can't win 10 with Aaron. Maybe it's just as simple as that. Like the worst quarterback in the NFL, the worst offense in the NFL, you still won 7 games. Aaron Rodgers can get me to 10 games, so that's where I landed.
What about Maggie's Buffalo Bills? I actually heard. I listen to every Ringer NFL podcast. It's awesome. You do a great job. It feels like I don't feel like anyone's really down on the Bills, but there's not that upside. Usually, we come into this season at this point. A lot of people are picking the Bills for the Super Bowl. I'm not seeing that a lot.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a constant Bills defender over the years. I just feel like they've been so unlucky the last 3 or 4 years. But I look at that roster this year, it really feels like a reset year. When you look at who's playing wide receiver, when you look at the names on defense, it's like, oh my goodness, all these great players from the past Bills defenses are no longer here. So one of the things I'm most excited about this year is can Josh Allen just put this group on his back and go to like an even higher level where, yes, we're talking week 8, week 9. He's the MVP of the league. They're a surprise team. But I'm a little scared to predict that that's going to happen just because I think they've lost so many players and they're in a reset year. So I've got them at like 10-7. I think they're a playoff team. I had them winning the AFC East before I flip-flopped and went with the Jets for my final prediction. But I think they'll be good. It just doesn't feel like they have enough where this is going to be the year for them.
Yeah, Sheil, how kind of you. Bad luck for the last 3 or 4 years.
Right.
40.
50, yeah.
40 years. More than that. But that's my issues to unpack with my therapist. We've been talking a lot about the AFC. Let's talk about the NFC a little because you do a show called Philly Special. Perloff and I were talking earlier about the coach who's under the most pressure. Now, it's a little bit different than the hot seat, right? But I think Nick Sirianni probably qualifies for both, let's be honest. Pressure and hot seat. You could see him being fired mid-season. I wouldn't put that past the Philadelphia Eagles. It was a bad look that the ESPN article came out that said he couldn't be in a meeting last year with Jalen Hurts, just the two of them. They basically needed some kind of third person to be in there as a translator. I mean, I know you cover this team and you follow them very closely. Sirianni, are you thumbs up, thumbs down that he's going to make it through the season?
Well, I think they're the biggest boomer bust team in the NFL. You just said it. I mean, you could tell me that Perloff's on, group chats about, hey, what are we doing in New Orleans in February when the Eagles are there? You could tell me he's on group chats where here's a list of the best head coaching candidates for 2025 because Sirianni get his butt out of here. It really, everything is in play. It's kind of this experiment where they're trying to win with the head coach having to do as little as possible in the NFL. He's not coaching the offense or defense. He's not involved in personnel. Even stuff like scheduling practice. Who's going to like this all comes from, the front office ownership in Philadelphia. So I think Sirianni is a well-liked guy in the building. Like, I think if he was a jerk, he'd be out of there already. I think they kind of like him and they're like, look at his Pro Football Reference page. The guy's 34-17. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's been to the playoffs all 3 seasons. At the same time, is he responsible for that? And is he the guy to get them over the hump? So I've got them winning the division. I've got them 11-6 just because I think there's so much talent on the roster, specifically the offensive side of the ball, and they did make those coordinator changes. But again, nothing you could say would surprise me if you looked into your crystal ball and told me, hey, this is how the Eagles season's going to end.
Sheil, do you think Bill Belichick is looming over Sirianni's shoulder for next season?
Well, there was that you mentioned one ESPN article, Maggie. There was another one about Belichick in the spring that I thought was as interesting because it said the Eagles had internal discussions about bringing Bill Belichick in and ultimately decided he would need too much control and they don't want to turn the organization over to him. And locally, people were saying, well, they just thought about it quickly. I said, no, if you get to that point where you're like, well, this is the reason why we shouldn't do it, there's a lot of conversations that haven't happened in between. So, yeah, I think you would have to think that shadow is looming over Nick Sirianni, but really it's a rare situation where everyone knows the deal. If you're not at least in like the second round of the playoffs this year, there is a strong chance you are out of a job next season. So whether it's Bill Belichick, whether it's someone like Ben Johnson from the Detroit Lions, which would kind of fit the organization's view or decision making with their head coaches of the past, something like that. I think all that is hanging over the Eagles season.
Last one from me, Sheil, and thanks again for joining us, Sheil Kapadia of The Ringer. So Perloff and I like to make bets. We keep things spicy around here and interesting, and we have a big one out here now. And it could be paid off in the short term or the long term, and it's about the Dallas Cowboys, and it's about Dak Prescott's future. And I think he's going to be gone after this year. I think this is the final season. Perloff thinks that he's going to stay because Jerry Jones hates change, and eventually they just run this back until the end of time. Whoever loses this bet has to go sit at a Waffle House for 24 hours. And for every waffle you eat, or in Perloff's case, cheese omelets because he doesn't want the carbs, 1 hour gets lopped off of the time. We're sort of borrowing this from a fantasy football group who famously did this as a punishment. So where do you stand? Who do you think is going to lose this bet, number one? And two, you said you picked the Eagles to win the division. Do you see the Cowboys taking a step back this year, or what's your vibe on Dallas?
Yeah, I do see the Cowboys taking a step back. Now, they have won 36 games over the last 3 seasons. That's most in the NFC, more than the Niners, more than the Eagles. So I think that would probably surprise a lot of people. So I might be having their weird offseason influencing my take on what I think they're going to be this season. That's absolutely a possibility. But they've got 2 rookies on their offensive line. I don't like the supporting cast outside of CeeDee Lamb. And then defensively, we'll see what they do. Just the vibes have been off all offseason. So I've got them 9-8, solid team, just not getting into the playoffs. As for the bet, man, this is really a tough one. I think the more likely outcome, just because of how the NFL works and what you mentioned about Jerry Jones, is that Dak's going to stay. But the fact that we are, 9 days away from the opener and he doesn't have a new deal, and once the season starts, there's no incentive for Dak Prescott to sign then. He's 17 games away from being like the only quarterback we've ever seen of his ilk to reach free agency, and that would mean hitting the open market, starting a bidding war. Remember, they can't franchise tag him. He's probably getting over $60 million per year in that type of situation. So you know what? I'm going to say Perloff's at Waffle House. and nothing wrong with the cheese omelet. I like those too. So, get that protein in there.
Yeah.
Get the bottomless coffee. Maybe treat yourself to a pancake in or a waffle in hour 9 or hour 11 or whatever. But I think you're going to be sitting in there.
Sheil, I'm definitely putting bacon on there, but you have to have bacon. Okay, Sheil, there's another food bet. Can I eat 4 cheesesteaks in an hour? Whatever. We're not going to get into that. I think I can easily do it. You're a Philly guy. If I had to eat 4 cheesesteaks in an hour, what's your spot? What's the best cheesesteak you got? I know it's a cliche question. You probably get it from out-of-towners, but I'm just curious.
I know, and you know what? I'm the only, not the only vegetarian in Philadelphia. We're stereotyped. There's a lot of us out there, so I can't even give you one. I mean, I could tell you, there are ones that get, recommended to me when my friends come in and I talk to my meat-eating friends. I said, where should I tell these people to go for a cheesesteak? But I don't want to be a fraud and tell you because I don't even eat cheesesteaks. So
Wait, Sheil, there's no veggie cheesesteak? It's the year 2024.
There are,
okay.
Actually. I didn't know if you want. Philadelphia, very vegetarian-friendly city. I might add.
Our former boss, Spike Eskin, vegetarian too.
He's a vegan.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So there's plenty of options.
All right, fine. I'm going to DeionSanders. That's probably what you get recommended a lot, right?
That's one. Yes, that is high on the list of recommendations, or so I hear.
All right, well, can I squeeze in one more Philly question? Next Philly team to win a championship. What's the parade I'm coming down to? You got the Phillies, the Sixers, the Eagles, Flyers. Who's winning? Who's winning it all? So I can come into my studio here in New York and brag.
I'm feeling good about the Phillies. They've won 4 in a row. I'm hoping it's this year. If it's not this year, they still have, they're going to spend. They outspend everybody. So I'm going to say the Phillies. There's no chance I would choose the Sixers there. And I just told you, I think, the Eagles, their season, they could be looking for a new coach. So I'm not going to go Eagles. So we'll stick with with this version of the Phillies team. Next 2 or 3 years, they get it done.
Thank you for indulging me on that, Sheil. That makes me feel better.
Sheil, thank you so much. Love listening to you. Ringer NFL show, Philly special. You do it all. Love reading you on the Ringer as well. Appreciate it. Enjoy the beginning of the season. We'll catch up with you soon.
All right. Thanks for having me. Good talking to you guys.
Thanks, Sheil.
I mean, does he know that everyone else on the show roots vehemently against the Phillies? I mean, he probably wouldn't care, but...
No. Philadelphia people love having everybody root against them. That's totally fine.
Yeah. Well, we are.
That's so funny that you guys, most people in the world hate the Eagles. You guys actually hate the Phillies. I mean, the Phillies are a harmless little team. Who cares if they win?
Yeah, the harmless team that outspends everybody. We hate them all. The spoiler. We don't really like any Philly team, Pearl. I'm sorry about that.
Even I get the Eagles and I get the Sixers, but the Phillies are as fun a team as there is in sports. I just do not get that one at all.
The only acceptable Philadelphia team to ever get behind is probably Villanova, and they've done a lot of winning now, so I don't know if they're not like this, the little engine that could anymore.
When John Chaney was at Temple, I mean, you could not. How would you not like John Chaney? He was a madman.
Temple, all right. EJ, What is the only acceptable Philadelphia team to root for? Oh, you're muted.
Oh.
I'm acting out. Sorry about that. You can't even go real. You got to go fictional. And it's not even a team. Rocky is the only Philadelphia sports entity that we can root for.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I mean, fair. He did end the Cold War.
What about when Mark Wahlberg played a Philadelphia Eagle guy, Vince Papale, in the 70s? You didn't get into that? Did anybody see that movie, Unbreakable?
Yeah, but we're not rooting for the Eagles off of that.
All right, fine. I mean, listen, EJ, are you a Mighty Ducks fan because of the movies? That's ridiculous. Rocky, get out of here.
Look, Rocky's an American hero, okay? So it was maybe my all-time favorite franchise. It's not Marvel. Like, everybody can get behind Rocky. He stopped the Cold War. He beat Clubber Lang. Like, he did all this amazing things. He was an inspirational hero. He's got a statue. I think everybody loves Rocky. That's why when you go to Philly, the first thing you do is you go to the Rocky statue.
You run up the stairs.
To the link.
Yeah,
we're not going to the link. We're not going to the Citizens Bank Park. They're fine arenas, fine stadiums, but Rocky is the only Philadelphia sports entity we can root for.
So you're not reenacting the Philly special, but you are running up the Art Museum steps. I totally get it. But
the first thing I did when I lived in Philadelphia for a summer. Literally, one of the first things I did was I gotta go up those steps. and I got to run up.
Maggie, when you go to Buffalo, what's the first thing you do? You light a table on fire and jump through it? Is that what you do in Buffalo?
Yeah, I mean, ketchup and mustard, just squirt it all over myself is like step one. Step two, light myself on fire and jump off of the top of a Winnebago into a plastic table. I mean, what do you do on a Wednesday?
Wait, did you guys see? I know we didn't talk about this off the air, but did you guys see, Maggie, that there's going to be a Bills Mafia documentary coming out? We didn't get to talk about this on the show.
Oh, wow.
I was wondering if they reached out to you because you're like, one of the honorary captains, I feel like, of the Bills Mafia.
I haven't heard about that yet. No, they have not reached out to me. I would love to be a part of the Bills Mafia documentary. But that's going to have some really crazy footage.
Yeah. Did they put GoPros inside porta potties, or what's going on here with this?
Oh my gosh! A lot of the craziest Bill stuff.
Before I die.
Yeah, a lot of the craziest Bill stuff though actually doesn't even go on in the official parking lot. So most of the weirdest, out insane stuff is actually happening off the premises. So some of the things we don't even get to. Do you guys remember last year there was a fan who after a game stumbled into where they're building the new arena and just fell into a construction site, and I think he was left there for a couple days. This could be some really funky stuff in this documentary.
I'm definitely watching that. All right, coming up, we got the great debate. It's a Pete Bellotti-inspired great debate. He requested this, and I think it's a good one. It's a little SNL related. That's next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Great Debate Series.
I got to tell you, there is an air of excitement in the building. I'm here in New York studio. Maggie's at the home man cave. This week's Great Debate was chosen by Pete Bellotti. Wants to do Saturday Night Live. So the debate is not who is the best Saturday Night Live cast member of all time, which is also a great debate.
Eddie Murphy.
Okay. But who has had the best post-Saturday Night Live career? Who's done the most since they left 30 Rock in their career? And this is one of the hardest great debates we've ever had. I think we all had 5 or 6 people we wanted to choose, but we can only choose one. And I think we should start going around the room with this one with Pete Bellotti himself. Pete, who do you have in the great debate?
Wait, Perloff, before we do that, can we explain to people why this is such a special honor here for Pete Bellotti and why we had to get this done today of all days?
Yeah, I wasn't sure. When are we talking about that? I guess we're talking about it now.
We're talking about it right now, this is Pete's final 3 days doing the morning show with us. This has already been announced. He's going to be going with our good friend Amy Lawrence on the overnight and being the executive producer of her show. And Pete will throw all the bouquets at you at a later time. We appreciate you. We think you're the best. And you wanted to do this as a final great debate on this show, and there was no way we were going to deny you that.
Or you can throw rocks at me. I think bogus.
That's my plan.
That's bogus only. You guys have a lot of history together.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, SNL, we talked about it the whole summer about doing topics surrounding SNL, and I thought this would be the best time to do it.
All right, Pete, who do you got? Who's the best post-SNL career?
Ghostbusters, Caddyshack, Stripes, Groundhog Day, Scrooge. It's Bill Murray.
Hey, Murray, guess what? Ahoy! I sail. I'm a sailor. I sail. Isn't this a breakthrough? I mean, that I'm a sailor? I sail. I sail now. Keep sailing, Bob. Out on a boat on the lake, way far away from the dock, in the wind with the sky and everything. Ahoy!
And of course, one of his best movies, What About Bob? Bill Murray, no question about it, best post-career of SNL of anybody.
Can I make a confession to everyone here?
What?
Okay.
I'm a super fan of Bill Murray. Rushmore is like one of my top 5 movies of all time. Not a What About Bob fan. I said it, and all my friends love it.
Boo,
What About
this
Bob
man.
is not in the top 10 movies for Bill Murray.
You don't sail? You don't sail ahoy?
I mean, I would say Stripes is number 1, and then Rushmore 2. But I think What About Bob, I find both characters a bit annoying.
Oh, Perloff.
You're annoying.
Take a vacation from your problems.
Whatever. You like Caddyshack too, Maggie, so stop.
Fair. That disqualifies me.
Is that a line from the movie? Sorry, see,
Yes.
I feel like an idiot. But that's a good choice. All right, Andrew Bogus, who do you got? Best post-SNL career.
This might be the hardest great debate you guys have posed with me and Pete as part of the crew here, because there are probably 8 or 9 correct answers. But I'm going with Anchorman, with Old School, with Talladega Nights, with Blades of Glory. I'm going with Will Ferrell.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen. Cannonball!
Can we talk about
cheese? What?
Can we talk about what is the woman's name? Veronica
Corningstone.
The Maggie Gray Veronica Corningstone photo from yesterday on social media.
You'll take Cam Jurgens and you'll like it.
There was a photo. Go to our Twitter feed at Maggie and Pearl. Is that fair to say, Maggie? I'm not being insulting at all, but you had an Anchorman pose in this. It was the funniest thing.
It's so, for some reason, the look on my face is so serious in this pose. It can't even be like Ferrari or La Magna, like La Tigra. I'm so serious. I said it. I look like someone on a billboard who I'm a lawyer who doesn't get paid until you get a cash settlement. You know, like I am no nonsense. I will work out your harassment, claim for you.
But the thing too is you're doing that thing where your body's facing one way and you turn to the camera the other way too. Like you're about to do an I-Team report. It's pretty awesome. But
there's a lot of sass, and you need it to sell me on James Cook being the 4th most important non-quarterback in the NFL this season.
Yeah, but Will Ferrell, I think we all like. I mean, Will Ferrell's about 100% approval. Is there any non-Will Ferrell fans?
I can't imagine.
Yeah,
Who wouldn't be?
I wanted to pick him too. All right, EJ Stewart, your favorite post-SNL career. Who do you got?
So I'm all about technicalities. Now, this guy did not have a long or even successful run on Saturday Night Live. But I think when you talk about both best post-SNL career, I think you got to go with a guy who's been a cash cow at the box office. Pete, I'm going with Robert Downey Jr.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly, with this laundry list of character defects, all the mistakes I made, largely public. The truth is, I am Iron Man.
And
wow.
with those words, a multi-billion-dollar franchise was born. You're talking about Robert Downey Jr., whose movies with him being a lead actor have grossed over $14 billion. We talk about salary. His salary's been reportedly in terms of earnings from these movies, upwards of $400 million. I think when you talk about success in Hollywood, I know necessarily not success from being a comedian on SNL, though his Iron Man role, he does have a lot of comedic lines. You talk about just successful career. That's all I was asked. I think you have to say, regardless of how poor the run was on SNL, that Robert Downey Jr., who's one of the most highly sought-after actors in Hollywood today, has to have had the best post-SNL career. So I'm going with Robert Downey Jr.
I noticed you didn't bring up any of his Oscar-nominated roles. You're just going to Iron Man. But,
I know, but I don't even have to. But yes, he's been in Oppenheimer. He's been an Oscar nominee, an Oscar winner. Like, this guy's done it all. He's a beast.
Yeah.
His run on SNL does not count.
Why? He was part of the cast.
Squeegeeing Bruce Bochy into something here.
Well, I'm just saying.
He was part of the SNL cast, Pete. He counts.
Yeah, I agree with EJ because the question is post-SNL career. It's not what they did at SNL. I'm totally down with this. We were talking about this yesterday. I'm like, I was wondering, will EJ find out that Robert Downey was on SNL? Because there's no way you've ever seen a clip of it. Have you, EJ?
Nope. I'm not even a big SNL fan, which you guys already know. So I had no clue he was on SNL until I started doing my research to find who would be a great person to pick. I saw Robert Downey and I said, debate's over. I know who I'm going with.
Yeah, by the way, he was on the same cast with Anthony Michael Hall, who Johnny Be Good. I don't know which one was first, but that's a great football movie. All right, Maggie, you're next. Best post-SNL career.
Yeah, so I'm actually kind of in the same vein with EJ here when I did this exercise. Which cast members had the best post-SNL career? I went with Chris Rock because Chris Rock didn't really have a very notable SNL career. He was on the show for 3 seasons. His best character was probably Nat X. That was his one recurring character, but he wasn't like a superstar. Then he leaves, immediately starts becoming one of the highest grossing stand-up comedians of all time. And I'm not a huge fan of Chris Rock's movies, but he has been in a million movies too. But the stand-up is really where you could have never guessed that what Chris Rock did on SNL, that he would become one of the greatest stand-up comedians of all time on the Mount Rushmore, especially for clips like this.
Fellas, once you get married, you become your wife's pet. You become a pet. Because women like to get their husbands together that don't even know each other and have like a grown man play date. Put you in a room with some other married and go, he likes baseball just like you. And you in some room with some stranger going, I like baseball. I like baseball too.
No one would have guessed from SNL that Chris Rock would go on to be, again, one of the highest grossing comedians of all time. So best post-SNL career, maybe surprising SNL career, would be Chris Rock to me.
I mean, again, 100% approval rating, except for, obviously,
one
certain
guy.
actors. Yeah.
Except for Will Smith.
Love Chris Rock. Okay, well, I guess I'm last here. I think...
Well, Andrew Kaplan, don't forget.
Oh, yeah. Well, Andrew Kaplan, well, that one's controversial. Pete, you're going to be the ultimate judge here. Andrew Kaplan went with Larry David. Is that fair, in your opinion?
Well, he's a writer. He was a writer, right?
Right. For about 8 weeks.
I would give it to him because he went out of the box. So, yeah, Larry David.
But wait, is it if you're going to go with a writer, why not Conan O'Brien?
You could go with a lot of guys. Bob Odenkirk. You could go with many people.
Oh, yeah, Odenkirk. Okay. I'm going to go obvious. Guy is probably, not only is he the best post-SNL career as an actor, a producer, a director. I don't know if he directed. He has an eye for talent. That, I think, is the most important thing about him. He knows when he needs to cast reporter number 2, he is going to get the best man for the job, and that is, of course, Adam Sandler.
Send him home. I just send him home. It's time to go home there, ball.
Son of a ball, why didn't you just go home? That's your home! Are you too good for your home? Answer me!
Adam Sandler, by the way, one thing that he did, he's a great actor. He's funny. We all love his movies. That guy's a genius, too. He produced, I think it started with Billy Madison. He has all the rights to his movies, so not only did he make those movies, he made all the money from those movies. So I think his business acumen gives him an advantage. I'm going to use that in this argument. He's also funny. He has a new special on Netflix called Love You. I'm just going to do a plug for it. It is hysterical. That dude has made all the money in the world and still has an incredibly funny stand-up special on Netflix, co-starring my friends Dan Bola and John Loughran, by the way. His assistants who are hysterical. Watch it. You'll love it. We all grew up with his comedy. That guy did everything. Comedy albums, movies. He's a very, very good serious actor in Punch Drunk Love and Uncut Gems. This guy does it all. I love every choice here, but you got to go as the whole picture Adam Sandler.
All right.
Yeah, there you go.
We've got some really good ones, and actually a lot for our audience to weigh in on ones that we may have missed, because there's some big names out there who've had some gigantic careers after SNL that got left off of our initial list.
Yeah.
So plenty to weigh in on.
Yeah, call it 855-212-4227. I think we all know the one name we left off. Pete, what's the guy that did not make this list? Probably the biggest star SNL's ever had.
Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, why didn't we do Eddie Murphy? Does anyone have an Maggie, did you look at Murphy?
I did look at Murphy, but here's the thing about Murphy. So I went with a different direction. I went with the person who was kind of low-key under the radar on SNL and how much they grew after. That's where I went with. Eddie Murphy was in every sketch when he was there. He was doing, Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood. He's doing Alfalfa. He's doing
Gumby.
Stevie Wonder. He was doing everybody.
James
so
Brown.
yeah, exactly. So That's why I didn't go with Eddie Murphy on this one.
Wait, but that your logic doesn't make any sense. The only question was who's had the post SNL career. You're saying just because Chris Rock did not, you're saying who is the most improved member?
I thought it was like, I want to take somebody who actually was not like super notable on SNL as a cast member and look at what they did after. You could have never predicted. Everyone knew Eddie Murphy was going to be the biggest star in the world after SNL because he was the biggest star on SNL.
Is this kind of like how when you did most impactful players in the NFL, you did Cam Jurgens over Myles Garrett?
Yep.
Is Bogus, you see a consistency here, a thread?
I mean, this one makes more sense than the list from yesterday. But it is in the same neighborhood.
Yes, where you take the category and you shape it your own way, which I like. By the way, it's nothing but that actually makes a lot of sense to me, what you just said. I'm kind of down with that argument.
Yeah, and by the way, most impactful non-quarterbacks, wait till the Eagles can't execute the tush push, and then let's all come back and we'll see whether or not Maggie was right about that one.
Well, we'll see. Tanner McKee weighs about 180 pounds. Yeah, he couldn't do the tush push. Jalen Hurts squats 800 pounds. He can tush push. But Colin, let's focus on SNL here. The best post-SNL career. See you on the phone lines. Call us 855-212-4227. We'll keep debating that, and we'll get to your headlines next. Sorry about that, Mr. Bogus. But post-SNL career coming up, Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
All right, it's a Pete Bellotti special great debate today, the best post-Saturday Night Live career. We have great nominations. Pete went with Bill Murray. Andrew Bogusch went with Will Ferrell. Maggie went with Chris Rock. EJ Robert Downey Jr. And I went with the Sandman. We see your calls. Give us a call, 855-212-4227. Let's go to JG in Arkansas, who has a very interesting nomination. Best post-SNL career. JG, who do you have?
What up? It's more of a sentimental pick because he didn't really outbox office anybody, and who knows what would have happened if he didn't pass away so soon. But my guy, Chris Farley.
Man,
I feel like he's incomplete, though. You know what I mean, JG?
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, it's a sentimental pick.
All right, I love it. All right, let's go to
Well, that was also about Jim Belushi. Was the same kind of, or John Belushi. I mean, John Belushi. Pardon me. All the talent in the world gone way too soon, and that obviously plays into the whole who had the best post SNL career as a cast member.
All right, let's go to Kevin in San Antonio. This seems to be a popular pick. Kevin, who do you got?
Yes. I grew up on Saturday Night Live. And you know what the favorite person I like is Dan Aykroyd. He was good.
As a post SNL though, Kevin, or during SNL?
After SNL, he did few movies and so forth, but he kind of like he hide.
Love it. Yeah, Dan Aykroyd's the best.
Famously in Caddyshack 2, a movie I love that everybody else wants to always put me down about. Dan Aykroyd, an original Blues Brother as well.
Yeah.
Guys, you can keep taking calls, Perloff. There's a huge one that we're missing here. Still huge. But keep taking calls, and then I'll tell you who we're obviously missing.
All right, Dan Aykroyd is not famously in Caddyshack 2. He just happens to be in Caddyshack 2. Let's go to Rich in California. Rich, what do you think best post-SNL career?
Well, since both the two are already gone off the board, how about Chevy Chase? Chevy, yeah.
Chevy Chase?
Yeah.
Wait, is it
it's not working.
Is it most disappointing post SNL career? Because come on, dude, he just got fired from Communities. The last thing we know about him.
Well, he also did a lot of the vacation movies as well.
Yeah. Oh, those were great.
Yeah, Fletch, Vacation.
Yeah, but come on. We all know Chevy Chase. After Howard Stern just demolished his career, I just think Chevy Chase, we're down on Chevy Chase now. Is that fair to say, or am I being overly critical?
Maybe a little overly critical. I mean, we are talking about some fairly classic movies that keep recurring.
Yeah, Caddyshack. I mean, I think that you're taking the 2024 people think Chevy Chase was a bit of a jerk or something on set, but you can't deny the post SNL career was phenomenal. I mean, Rich said it, not just with the vacation movies, but I mean, this dude has been in some amazing, amazing ones.
Well, so Chevy Chase and Bill Murray were famous rivals, right, Maggie?
Yeah.
Look, Chevy Chase, they both had great movies in the 80s. Chevy Chase had Vacation and all that. Bill Murray kept on doing awesome things. What has Chevy Chase done since 1986?
Well, but again, he was on Community, which was that in our sitcom bracket?
He was on it for a year or something, and then they got rid of him.
Well,
No,
you're
he was
just
on it
asking.
for longer than that.
Well,
Yeah.
Anyway, that's definitely a negative, what happened on Community. He also wasn't even that funny on Community.
The other part is he's also a musician, Chevy Chase. Didn't
No.
he was like performing with Paul Simon and all that stuff.
You mean in that video for You Could Call Me Al? I think he was fake playing all those instruments.
No, he's a real musician in real life.
We didn't bring up any.
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
He is. I'll find it for you.
Yeah.
Oh, he was a member of Steely Dan, wasn't he?
What? Maybe
guys,
an
look it
honorary, a member of Steely Dan. Chevy
I think he's played with Steely Dan a lot.
That's different than being a member. Okay. By the way, we didn't mention Kristen Wiig's. Can we give a shout out to the movie Bridesmaids, which is all time? She hasn't really followed up with much, but she's awesome.
Okay, so this is where I was going with the obvious one that we're missing. And it's a little more in the vein of EJ picking Robert Downey Jr. or me picking Chris Rock, two people who didn't have like these massive SNL careers, but then have had these big careers after. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, guys, Elaine.
Oh, yeah. Good
She
one.
was on SNL, and it was very short-lived. She was only on for one season. I know Andrew Kaplan picked Larry David as the greatest post-SNL career. He was a writer, obviously. But Julia Louis-Dreyfus is like the first lady of TV, and SNL did not go well for her.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm focused on movies. You're right. I forgot about her. Do you have another one, too? Because now that there's another woman that you could argue for. Tina Fey.
Tina Fey, yeah.
But then again, that's like in the writer vein. Wait, let's squeeze in a couple before we end this, because we're going to get back to it next hour. Andrew Bogusch, do you have a couple headlines for us here?
Sure. NFL injury news from yesterday. Packers running back A.J. Dillon will miss the coming season with a neck issue that began in Week 17 last winter. Odell Beckham Jr. will start the Dolphins season on the PUP list. He hasn't been on the field since March with an undisclosed injury. Baseball, the Mets snapped the Diamondbacks' 6-game win streak, 8-3 in Arizona. Sean Manaea, K11, allowed those 3 runs over 6 2/3, but the Braves did win in Minnesota, 8-6-10, so they stay 3 games clear of those Mets for the last NL wildcard spot. And Carlos Alcaraz needed 4 sets to fend off Lee 2 on night 2 of the U.S. Open. Jessica Pegula also winning under the lights at Arthur Ashe Stadium. Today's schedule includes Coco Gauff, Madison Keys, Novak Djokovic, and Taylor Fritz.
Quick snapshot of Andrew Perloff's life. I watched Alcaraz play, I watched a Connor Stallions documentary, and I watched the entire Adam Sandler Netflix thing while taking care of my family. I had a heck of a night. But
up until midnight? When did you go to sleep?
So actually, I don't know. I kind of fast forwarded through parts of the Connor Stallions thing to get to the good stuff. Yeah, the Alcaraz thing wasn't over that late. That was on a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it started at like 7:30.
Did it start that late?
Definitely was at night, yeah.
All right,
I would just like to know if Perloff is watching all this TV and also taking care of his family, which one of these things is going to suffer the most while you're multitasking?
Oh, yeah. Who knows? But my daughter loved the Connor Stallions thing. She's a lot like you, Maggie. She loves the intrigue behind the scenes. She's going to become a conspiracy theorist, I think, like you are.
Oh, man.
She's like, she didn't understand any of this. She'd say, Dad, so what happened? Did Michigan win the title? I'm like, yes, they won. So she was cheering full on for Connor Stallions.
Really?
Oh, my God. You know, which is interesting because that means that the documentary, at least to some people, was presenting him as the hero.
Absolutely. I mean, I think they tried pretty hard to do that. And I think there were a lot of things about Stallions and his story. Obviously, he's the alleged sign stealer, at the center of this scandal with Michigan football. His military background and being in the Naval Academy and then being in the Marines, he has all this credibility and gravitas that they build up. What a hard worker he is, the sacrifice, how much he loved Michigan. It's easy to get behind his story. But Perloff, I thought where it really fell short was there was when push came to shove and you're talking about the real nitty-gritty parts of this scandal, did he buy tickets and direct other people to go videotape future Michigan opponents? Was he on the sideline for the Central Michigan game where it looks like he's in a disguise? He skirts these things and holds no accountability whatsoever. And so for those reasons, I thought it was hard to root for him because they paint him out to be this man of honor and about team and sacrifice, and yet he has no accountability in the moments when you needed it the most.
Yeah, my star, by the way, did you see Bro-Hio? I don't want to spoil anything, but apparently there was a whole bunch of weirdos who are stealing signals, and there's one guy named Bro-Hio who shows up wearing a full mask, and he looks like a ninja, and he's the nerdiest Ohio State fan ever. There's a whole subculture. Did you know anything about that, Maggie? I kind of guess it makes sense, but there are a lot of weird college football fans.
Yeah, there. You think? This one went straight from the message boards out to like the New York Times. I mean, this is an insane scandal. The documentary is very watchable, but obviously some flaws too.
All right, coming up, we are going to get the scoop from a true expert on what quarterbacks we can expect to shine this year. Quincy Avery next, right here, Maggie and Perloff Show.
He was good.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Back on the Maggie and Perloff show. Great debate today. The best post-Saturday Night Live career. We'll get more into that in a minute, but we are just 8 days away from the NFL season. And when you're previewing the season, Maggie, I think you really have to start with the quarterbacks. And there's nobody who is better to talk to quarterbacks about. If you want to sit next to somebody at a bar and ask them about quarterbacks, there's no one better in the world than Quincy Avery, of course, the foremost quarterback trainer in the nation, in my opinion. Quarterback Takeover, works with several pros, college guys, youth football, everybody. I think a quarterback genius. Quincy, how you doing, buddy?
What up? I'm amazing. How are you today?
We are great. So we have to start with Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. I got to tell you, I'm gonna call Maggie out right now. She is flirting with, and I don't know where she is. She has high expectations for the Cleveland Browns, but we get so much different news about where Deshaun Watson is health-wise and where the team is offensively. So how's Deshaun doing? What do you expect this season?
I expect really good things, right? Like, I think the expectation for him needs to be greatness. I think that, and I understand how people view him, whatever that looks like, but they're absent the fact that he's been really, really injured really injured last year, right? His shoulder was broken, right? There was ligament, like all these things were issues with his shoulder, and he still played pretty well. Like that Ravens game, you go back, his shoulders dislocated, high ankle sprain. Like he did good things at the quarterback position despite being really injured. There was a game against the Colts last year where he couldn't throw the ball 25 yards, and he went out there and still tried to play. So I think that this has been his best offseason in a really long time in terms of preparation for the game, being able to throw, putting himself in position where he was able to do all the things throwing-wise that he needs to do to be successful in an NFL game, and he's in a good spot. And then I also think, like, we see things like, oh, Deshaun Watson didn't practice or didn't play in this last preseason game. Well, I think that it probably would have been irresponsible on the Browns' part to put him out there with the situation they had at the offensive line. Like, it's a situation that I think Andrew Berry does as good a job as anybody. He's like figuring it out and getting that situation in a spot that they'll be good in. But coming off an injured shoulder, you don't want to put somebody out there in that situation. And then I think that every day that he misses, like, isn't throwing, and I think that was only one day during practice, it's all very, very calculated in terms of what they're doing when they're doing it. So the Cleveland Browns have a really good plan, and I think Ken Dorsey is going to be an amazing addition to the things that Deshaun Watson is able to do at the quarterback position.
Quincy Avery is joining us, works very closely with Deshaun Watson, but is one of the quarterback guru coaches out there, and we're happy to have him on the show today. So a couple questions off of that with Deshaun. Quincy, do you think his shoulder is ever going to be back to 100%, or is this going to be something he's going to have to play through pain, play through soreness, and we're never going to get the fully healthy Deshaun shoulder again?
Oh, I think in terms of throwing, we've tested, so it's not, hey, is it as good, right? He throws the ball as hard with more velocity. Like, his miles per hour are higher now than they were prior to the injury. So those things are not like a concern.
Okay.
Right? It's just his arm getting in a position where he's thrown enough, right? He's built up that callus from putting enough throws on his arm that after taking like almost a year off of throwing, that he's going to be able to have like the ability to go out there and throw every single day.
Okay. Then another question I have for you. So he's throwing with more velocity than ever, but it's just about building up maybe the tolerance and all of that to keep throwing. So this was kind of interesting. The Athletic does this thing every year where they do quarterback tiers. And Mike Sando, what's that? You saw it.
Mike Sando. Yeah, I love that piece.
It's a great piece. So Deshaun's in tier 4 this year and dropped another tier. And one of the executives had this to say in the article. He said, it's a bad fit in Cleveland because you have an RPO quarterback, a run-pass option quarterback, in a play-action offense. It's not a good mix. Do you agree with that? Are they running the right offense for Deshaun Watson in Cleveland?
I think that so these executives are all over the place. Deshaun might have run 3 RPOs a game when he was in Houston, right? Their offense was not predicated on the RPO. Now, one of the plays that they ran really well at a high level where they got that tight end in the flat and they had Deshaun on the move off the run action and he'd be, it looked like a boot. That is something that they brought with them to Cleveland, right? So it's not like they're trying to reinvent the wheel. I think that Kevin Stefanski was probably one of the best play callers in terms of back to the defense, play action passes. But I think that he's been able to blend that with the things that Deshaun does really well. And maybe it won't be so much back to the defense, but shotgun play action passes. And I think that that's going to put him in position. Now, the interesting part for them is the use of 11 personnel, which is 1 tight end, 1 back, and 3 receivers, versus the use of 12 personnel, 1 back, 2 tight ends, which Stefanski's done a great job of throughout his career. But you could see that with just the roster, right? Who did they keep? They only kept 2 tight ends. So I think that they have a really good idea of what they're doing. And I think that they're going to be able to set up a situation that Deshaun's able to be special.
Talking to quarterback trainer Quincy Avery. And right behind you, Quincy, if you're watching on Infinity Sports Radio YouTube channel, you have framed jerseys. And the one, you got Deshaun Watson, Jalen Hurts, a lot of the quarterbacks you've worked with. The one in the middle is my favorite. It is a Josh Dobbs jersey, who is the first NFL quarterback you worked with way back. And now it's kind of getting back in the day when you and Josh Dobbs hooked up in high school. He's in San Francisco. Talk about fit, because Josh Dobbs has played on so many teams now. He's in that Shanahan offense. Because I watched Brock Purdy in the preseason. It feels like being a backup quarterback in San Francisco is an important job, because over the last few years, we've seen a lot of it. Is he a fit for a Kyle Shanahan offense? Do you think, have you talked to Josh? Like, is he ready to go? What's going to happen here in San Francisco?
Dobbs is somebody I talk to probably once every 2 days, 2 or 3 days. So he's someone who's really excited about the situation in San Francisco, right? Because it's an offense that's very rule-based, right? They do a great job of saying, hey, on your first hitch, I need you here. Second hitch, I need you here. Third hitch, hit the check down, right? And that plays really well into Dobbs' mindset, because he can have rules, right? And there's no one who's going to be better at like following rules, doing exactly what the coaches say, better than Dobbs, right? That's how his mind works. Those are the things he needs. And he gets that, and then he still gets to be creative, right? Because he is one of the most athletic quarterbacks in the NFL. So he's going to be able to blend, hey, the structure of the things that Kyle Shanahan wants to do, because he's probably one of the best play callers, play designers in the NFL. And then he gets to add his flair, right? The ability to get off platform, move around, create plays out of structure. And it's going to create a situation where I think he'll be really, really successful. I imagine he'll be able to start a few games in San Fran just because kind of how it always works there. And then he'll be able to get a deal next year that's worth a lot of money.
Quincy, what do you think of Brock Purdy? There's always a debate. Is he a system quarterback? Could he make plays if he didn't have all those great receivers and that line in front of him? How do you evaluate him as a quarterback?
Brock Purdy is a very good quarterback, but he's much better in the structure of the offense, right? He, like Dobbs, is someone who has the ability to work through the system, right? Those one hitch, two hitch, work through the pure progressions, get from one side of the field to the other, and be really, really accurate. But if we asked him to go play in Kansas City, would he be great? Right? I'm not sure he could go do the same things that we're asking him to do in San Francisco, or could he be like Jordan Love? Now, if we put him in Miami, he'd be probably a better version of Tua than Tua is, right? So he's a really good quarterback, but he is amplified by the structure of the San Francisco offense.
Quincy Avery is joining us, QB Takeover, and one of the renowned quarterback gurus in the league. He's worked with everybody. And, Quincy, Perloff has a thought here that this rookie class is going to be on par with 1983. We're going to be fitting guys for gold jackets. This could be 2004 maybe all over again. You do this for a living. You see these guys. Of the Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, Drake May, obviously J.J. McCarthy's hurt right now, Bo Nix, Penix. I mean, do you see that a lot of hits in this quarterback class? Because the early returns have been good, but we know that can be a little bit of a red herring sometimes.
Yeah, I don't put much stock at all into preseason football from the quarterback position because the things that the defenses are doing are so vanilla, so bland, much different than what you'll see on a Sunday. But this quarterback class has a ton of talent. I think everybody thinks Caleb Williams could be generational if he learns how to hit the layups, right? It's not the big special things, the electric throws down the field, but if he can get really good at throwing the ball for 7 and 10-yard completions, I think that this class, I don't know, the things that I see throwing the football wise from Jaden Daniels and Caleb are elite. And then the things we saw in the preseason early from Penix, those are some really good quarterbacks. And then you'll have somebody like Bo Nix, who is going to be a completion junkie. So I'm not ready to fit them for their gold jackets yet. But I think that this quarterback class could be one that takes the quarterback position to another level because we're just going to have more top-tier talent at the quarterback position, right? So this is going to be a really good class, I hope. And I hope that Caleb can lead the charge.
Quincy, part of your job is you work with, I think, going middle school, high school, college, and pro. And I know you're on top of the college scene as well. I'm hearing a lot of Carson Beck and Shedeur Sanders in upcoming drafts and Heisman talk. Is there a college quarterback that's not getting enough attention that we should pay attention to?
Yep, I'm going to give you two.
Okay.
I'm going to give you Avery Johnson at Kansas State. And I think that people talk about Will Howard at Ohio State. Will Howard needed to leave Kansas State because Avery Johnson was going to be the starter, like it or not, right? He's someone who I think he's going to be someone in 2 years where first pick, he's going to change the organization. And the next quarterback that I want to talk about is Max Brosmer at Minnesota, right? He is someone who he's probably the most accurate quarterback in college football. He transferred up from University of New Hampshire and ends up at the University of Minnesota. I think some other programs probably missed on him, but he is truly special, truly unique, and he plays the game above the neck at an NFL level. So those are the two guys that I look at and I'm like, these are two of the most talented quarterbacks in the college football space.
Quincy, what do you think about Shedeur?
Okay. I'm going to try and be really, really measured in what I say because I watch Shedeur and I think that he's a good college quarterback. If I were to give him a comparison of somebody that I saw in college, it'd be Brad Kaya, right? Someone who was really good at the college level. He was really accurate. He doesn't move as well as I think that people think he moves, right? And you think that because his dad's DeionSanders, his name's Shedeur Sanders, he's got to be a great athlete. And he doesn't necessarily move like someone who is a great athlete. And he doesn't have superior arm strength. but I think that he is a really smart and capable quarterback, and that intelligence that he has allowed him a ton of success in college. I don't necessarily think that always translates to the NFL level.
Talking to Quincy Avery. All right, Quincy, you are a Minnesota State high school prep phenom. Did you ever play Tim Waltz High School, Mankato West? Were they any good? I've been wondering about this because I keep hearing high school coach. I assume you took them down at some point.
Man, I wish. They were a little smaller school than where I was at. We'd have probably beat up on them pretty good. But him running that 4-4 defense, they'd have gave us some trouble because our coach just wanted to run the ball every play.
Another Minnesota product who you worked with extensively, Trey Lance, had a tough game. 5 picks, had a crazy run. What do you think in Dallas? Does he have a chance to sort of learn the position and improve, or is it going to be tough for him to ever get a starting job?
Well, as a first-round pick, everybody knows you're just afforded more opportunities than everybody else, right? So they're going to re-sign Dak, like it or not. That's what's going to happen. I don't think Trey Lance is going to go into a season as a starter until, right, someone gets hurt, or he gets an opportunity as a backup, going somewhere, getting to play some games, and does really, really well. Is it going to be difficult for him to do that just because when he gets in that game, he'll be on limited reps and they're going to have like a set of handcuffs on him because it's difficult after a 5-interception preseason game? Yeah. But when you watch Trey Lance, you still see flashes of like, I understand why he was a first-round pick, right? The talent is there, and he's been limited on the amount of reps that he's gotten throughout his career. So when and the reps are hard to come by, right? It's going to be hard to get those reps, but he's just got to see things in a way that allows him to find completions, because when he sees it and he knows what's going on and he rips the ball, oh my God, it looks good.
Quincy Avery's with us. Last one for me, Quincy, and obviously on the pro level, we know everyone's polished. Everyone's got the pedigree. You wouldn't have made it to that position if you didn't have all the training in the world. And that's your job. That's your specialty, training up these quarterbacks to perform at the highest level. Is there a quarterback, though, who you watch on the NFL landscape and you go, the footwork's off, the mechanics are weird? Like, is there somebody who's succeeding in spite of maybe not being the perfect thrower or the perfect everything? You know, is there somebody who you watch on Sundays and you're like, how is this guy making it happen out there?
Yeah, the best quarterback in the NFL right now. You see Mahomes drop and you're like, that's kind of funky, right? He just kind of did what he wanted. He doesn't throw in a way that I think that other people would be instructed to throw, and that's because he did not have a quarterback trainer. He played baseball. He played some of these other sports growing up that allowed him to be creative, and I think that he almost has changed the way that people in my space operate, right? Like, I know that I have to train people and allow them freedom and allow them the creativity to do the things that they want, because if the best person in the world at the position is figuring things out on the fly and letting their body move and adjusting and adapting to situations, I better start training like that. So Mahomes is an absolute anomaly in both how he throws, how he moves, and the way that we should train the position, honestly.
But Quincy, you're going to have kids throwing behind the back and no looks. That's going to drive you crazy. I can tell already.
Yo, if a kid try to throw a ball behind the back, I'm going to punch him in the face. So that would be that is how that play is going to end when they do that.
All right, Quincy, really appreciate the time. Next time you're in New York, you got to come in studio with us. I love talking quarterbacks. It's really good to see you, bud.
Absolute pleasure. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one.
All right, thanks Quincy. That's Quincy Avery. Well, a lot to break down there, a lot to chew on. I love Avery Johnson. Maggie, can we adopt him as the Maggie and Perloff team quarterback? Because you're right, we haven't seen anything from him, but man, everyone is excited at Kansas State.
I thought that was an interesting breakdown, too, about Shedeur Sanders. You know, Shedeur being this, sort of everyone kind of assumes that he's this great athletic quarterback because his dad is Deion. And we kind of blamed a lot on the offensive line last year, and he was getting sacked so much and couldn't really show everything he could do. Quincy says, maybe not the most athletic guy and kind of has a just sort of an average arm, and we'll see what he can make happen this season at Colorado. Interesting.
Wow. Okay, coming up, we're going to get back into our great debate today, post-SNL career. Who had the best post-SNL career? You can give us a call, 855-212-4639. 4227. We're getting a lot of nominations in the chat and on Twitter, so please weigh in. And there are a bunch of people we haven't gotten to yet. We would love to hear from you. That's next, Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining.
Mm.
45 seconds remaining.
Ha
30 seconds remaining.
He high.
15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff. Great debate today. The best post-Saturday Night Live career. Of all the millions of stars who've been on Saturday Night Live, who had the best career after they left 30 Rock? I went with The Sandman. Bogus went Will Ferrell. Pipolati went Bill Murray.
He was good.
Maggie went with Chris Rock, and EJ picked Robert Downey Jr. We mentioned some snubs on this list. Bogus brought up Mike Myers. That's pretty good. Wayne's World. Although, and Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Has done a lot lately.
No,
Shrek.
A little bit of a weirdo lately.
Well, yeah, Shrek's a good
Shrek,
one.
yeah.
And you know, he was in like Inglourious Bastards. He was like a bit part, and he's in a couple of little things like
really?
that. Yeah.
Okay. I did not know that. What about the Martin Short and Billy Crystal, who had that great season in '83, then disappeared? Do they count even?
Yeah. I mean, if Downey Jr. counts, then they count. All the one-season players have to count.
Yeah, I mean...
I'm seeing some Steve Martin as well. Steve Martin, amazing. Steve Martin, though, I think was famous before SNL, though, but then also obviously has been massive star ever since.
But not on the cast, so I don't think he counts.
Right. It falls in line. I got a couple calls about Jim Carrey. He was not a cast member. He was a guest host and a guest star. He was not a cast member.
No, Jim Carrey famously was on In Living Color. He was on The Competition.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen, by the way, Damon Wayans did, and I seem to remember this, did do some Saturday Night Live and then went on to produce all those Wayans Brothers movies. How about Jason Sudeikis? Just because he's awesome and a Chiefs fan. I don't know.
Well, he's, Ted Lasso now. But
Ted
I don't
Lasso, yeah.
I don't think that puts him in the category with a Bill Murray or a Chris Rock. I mean, we're talking really, really high-level A-list stuff here.
Yeah, he didn't sail.
Okay. I'm surprised, Maggie, that you did not go with Randy Quaid because you love comedy sequels. And Randy Quaid, I think he took over and he take over? I know obviously he was from Vacation. He was great in, but I think he eventually became the groundskeeper in some terrible Caddyshack sequel.
He was the lawyer. He was the lawyer in Caddyshack 2. Memorable role.
He's also the angry fan in Major League, is he not?
Major League 2.
He was great at that.
Yes.
He's, of course, famously a mess off the field, right?
Off the field.
Yeah, he's off the field.
All right. Did we put a poll up for that, or is that too many people? It's just so hard.
Poll is up. Poll is up.
Who's winning, EJ? Do you know?
Yeah. So for this is Pete's last week. I kept the morning crew together. So Robert Downey's not in the poll.
Okay.
So the poll was who has had the best post SNL career. 53% say Adam Sandler, 20% say Bill Murray, 25% say Will Ferrell, and Matt, you're gonna love this. 0.9% say Chris Rock.
So that was Maggie's vote.
That is worse than the poll we had earlier about parents being called by their first name. 0.9% is crazy.
Bogus. I actually voted for Sandler.
Thank you.
No, great. I voted for Rock because he wasn't even all that memorable and notable on SNL. More as a host. He only had one recurring character, Nat X, and then from that parlayed it into this incredible stand-up career. The problem is Chris Rock's a terrible actor.
Yeah.
Not good actor.
I think his movie, he's not a terrible actor, but his movies that he's tried to carry have not worked. I agree with that.
No.
All
He
right.
did a good job in that Fargo season that he was in.
Yeah, I never watched that, although that got amazing reviews.
He had a great acting job at the Oscars.
Easy,
Pete.
I don't think that was acting.
Guy over there.
I think Chris Rock is in the conversation of Mount Rushmore of stand-up comedians. I mean, he's high up there. So that I agree with you, Maggie. There's nothing wrong with him. Ben Stiller, did we mention him? Ben Stiller wrote sketches, right, for Saturday Night Live. He's closer to a cast member. Is anyone going there?
I'm actually surprised that nobody picked Colin Jost just because he is now married to Scarlett Johansson, and I feel like that is maybe every red-blooded American man says some kind of fantasy about Scarlett Johansson, and so he would be the best post.
But we're adults here, Maggie. Why would we do that?
Right.
This is about the craft.
I would pick him.
I guess he's also current. So it doesn't.
A couple other. Amy Poehler, she's awesome.
Thought about her.
Did you know Sarah Silverman was on the cast?
Yes.
Pete, you knew that, right?
I remember that.
She's pretty good.
But we're way off the target here. Good careers, funny people, but they're not the top echelon of this conversation.
Well, Amy Poehler, there's some huge Parks and Rec fans. That's the only thing.
But that's Parks and Rec. It's not 7 other movies that she was a hit in and sold hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars of tickets.
How about John Cusack's sister, Joan Cusack, who was in 16 Candles wearing the headgear? Pass is an actress, or pass like you're not hooking up with her?
How about Charles Rocket while we're at it?
Joan Cusack is iconic. You cannot
She's amazing.
She's great in everything she shows up in.
Bogus, you would be lucky to hook up with Joan Cusack.
No. I was passing on her being an answer to this question.
How about Al Franken?
We're just now naming SNL
Al
characters.
Franken became a senator.
He did.
Then what happened?
Now he's not.
Can I say David Spade has a very popular podcast. I think it's owned by our company. Fly on the Wall. So that's really good.
Good stand-up.
All right. Let's do some updates and save me here, Bogus.
First, it was Magic Johnson responding with as much magic anger as possible to Anthony Edwards, saying only Michael Jordan had true skill back in the day. Now it's Kevin Garnett's turn, but you can correct me if I'm wrong here. KG defends his generation by saying something just as untrue as Edwards.
I don't think anybody in this generation could have played like 20 years ago, if I'm being 100. And this is to everybody in our league, Tatum, all y'all.
So Edwards said no one back then was good. KG's counter is no one now is good. Both of those things are false.
Yep.
Okay. But here's KG explaining.
20 years ago, bro, you couldn't get to a triple step back.
No.
You hear what I'm saying to you? You couldn't get to a triple step back. And then if you shot that, it had to go in. You know why? Because we had efficiency back in the day, my dude, and it was so hard. It was too physical.
Again, I'll interject. I was alive back then, and I remember Kobe and Allen Iverson taking 40 shots to score 30 points. I mean, let's not throw efficiency around like guys are perfect machines of offense back in the day.
Yeah, let's not pretend that travel was ever a thing back in the day.
What does this mean?
Does any like former sport like hate the current guys and vice versa more than basketball? It's like these dudes. It's like it has to do something about the money, right? I can't imagine that doesn't play into it, because guys now are getting these absurd contracts, or not absurd, they're earning them, but there has to be a little bit of resentment for the money, right?
But you would think in baseball that would be the same case, or even worse, because baseball money's also crazy, and those guys who the Willie Mays and those guys didn't make anything compared to what these guys are making now.
No, you're right, EJ, but baseball's top heavy. Like there's not that many $300 million guys. Everyone in the NBA feels like they're making 200 minimum. It's like the league minimum's like $30 million a year. It's crazy.
You might be right, Maggie, but KG made $340 million in the NBA, so he got paid. He should not be griping
he was kind
that
of like
much.
He was kind of the first $100 million player, I think, in the NBA, or the first guy that signed that crazy contract after his second year. So he kind of ushered in this era, to be honest.
Yeah, and remember Alex Rodriguez doubled it the next day, basically.
Well, the thing about former baseball players, like we never hear from them. Like
they
NBA
don't have
guys,
podcasts.
Yeah, NBA guys are.
Just wait.
They're brand. No, it'll never be like the NBA guys, because the NBA guys they got to keep their brand going. So KG's got to go out there and say stuff, and this is like the thing to say.
But is this what they do on their own time, or is this just for podcasting purposes?
EJ, you think they really care? I think they got to say something on a podcast.
I don't know what it is about basketball players, but they are so beholden to their era. Basketball players and basketball fans. I walk into any barbershop, it is always the conversation. Like I don't know why. I don't really get it. Maybe I'm a weirdo because I'm like an old soul. I love the old game, but I also love the game now, obviously. But I don't have these conversations with any other people when it comes to baseball or football. It's bizarre to me. But these people can't stand each other.
Let me ask about the barbershop conversation. I feel like everyone leans old school. Who's going to be like, I love the way the game is played today?
You always have a young 16-year-old comes in saying, Kobe's the GOAT. It happens every time. And then you got some old head being like, "You don't know nothing, young snapper. Did you watch Connie Hawkins play? Like it happens every time."
But EJ, no one's like,
I step in the barbershop.
no one's like Jalen Green is the truth. Like nobody, they're not. That's what I'm saying. The current game, Kobe's a bit old school, right? Like, and Kobe felt old school too. He played old school. So, is anyone into Anthony Edwards yet, or does it take more time to get to that point?
I've got something here in the chat from our pal Delta who said, baseball, they always give respect to those who came before them. And it feels like basketball, the total opposite, just trying to rip respect away from these guys. Like, with some of these things, Anthony Edwards saying no one had skill except for Michael Jordan. And now KG saying nobody today could play 20 years ago. Like, it is just, there is no respect between the old school and the new school, or very little.
And I think it hurts the sport. I think when we talk about why people take the NBA kind of as a joke, I think it's because people take this divide seriously. So, like, people say, why am I paying attention to these guys now who aren't that good? Or people who now don't really care about the pass of the game because they say those guys stunk. I don't think this helps the NBA. I don't know why these players and these fans are so invested in it. I think it hurts the sport overall.
One guy, my guy, Dr. J, everyone pays homage to him. Like, I think LeBron wore 6 in part because of Dr. J.
Yeah.
Like, there's certain guys that transcend, that aren't that controversial. I think LeBron recognizes the pass. I hear him. He does not rip old guys, does he?
He loves the pass. That's what honestly made my favorite thing about LeBron James. I think he actually really does respect the history of the game. He said that this was one of the things he thought actually made you a great player. I know, Perloff, you hated that take from him during the first podcast he had with JJ Redick.
Oh God, that was obnoxious.
He doesn't lead this charge except when he's arguing against Michael Jordan. Everything else he pays homage, but none of the other players in his generation do the same. Kevin Durant goes after these guys, Ant goes after these guys, and I don't think it's going to end anytime soon.
It'd be a great debate. Which sport has improved the most since the 90s? Like,
I like that.
NBA, football. I think football, the guys are faster, stronger, bigger. I think baseball, they're probably better. They pitch the ball fast. I don't know. That's an interesting question. Like, what's way better in 2024 than 1994?
Are you talking about just the skill level of the athletes?
Yeah, like which, because that's a part of the debate, man. If you put Anthony Edwards back in 1995, he'd get beat up. Like, what if you put Tyreek Hill back in 1994? What would he look like?
Yeah.
I think
That's a great question.
Football guys are. I mean, they're huge now. I remember when I was a kid, the Hogs in Washington were an anomaly. They had 5 300-pounders on their offensive line. And they were like, this is the biggest offensive line in the history of the world. Now Dartmouth College has three guys who are 340. So I think it's interesting how sports evolve. Basketball is the weirdest though, because I don't know who's better. I really don't.
Yeah, the one for me, and this is a little bigger of an answer for your question, is old school hockey goalies who had the tiniest pads, no face mask, and they just stood up. They didn't go on the ice. They didn't reach left to right. They just stood there. So if you skated around them or shot wide, it went in. Now you got guys, they fill up the entire net in the pads. Yep. They're doing splits and acrobatics with all this gear on, making ridiculous saves. The first goalies were almost useless.
That's so funny.
A great one.
Psychotic too, I might add.
That too. Maniacs and useless. Real quick, NFL teams now going through players that were cut or waived before yesterday's roster deadline. The Panthers, the lowly Panthers, have the first priority on that waiver wire, so they'll get whomever they want if they want somebody. College football's oversight committees have suggested eliminating the 15-day spring transfer window, leaving only the 30-day version that opens after conference championship games in December. The final decision on this comes in meetings in October and would go immediately into effect if they do change it. At the All-Star break, the Royals were 7 games behind the Guardians in the AL Central. Now they're even after last night's 6-1 win in Cleveland. KC and AL best 23-13 since that break, while the Guardians are 17-21. And Asia Wilson scored 42 points, but the Aces lost in Dallas 93-90. Vegas is now 18-12, just 5th in the league standings. They lost only 7 total games last year, including the postseason, while winning the title. And again, they're 18-12 right now. Guys, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Again, if you want to call in, best post-SNL career, 855-212-4227. Looks like I'm killing it in the polls again. Thank you, Sandman. All right, coming up next, we haven't heard from them all show. Let's get into a little DeionSanders. That's X, Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
All right, welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. That music means one thing. Dallas Cowboys. I feel like a lot of optimism around the team right now because they signed CeeDee Lamb. Maggie and I have a big bet coming up. Will Dak Prescott be the quarterback week 1 next season? I say yes. Maggie says no. The loser has to go to a Waffle House and eat 24 waffles, or in my case, cheese omelets, within 24 hours. So for each
That's not the bet. That's not the bet.
Well,
you're lying to people.
No, I was about to explain. For each hour that you eat, each waffle, you take off an hour. Wait, no, explain this again. How does it work? I don't know. Basically, if you eat fast, then you have to eat less.
Okay. Well, you agreed to this, even though you might not be able to explain it. You have to sit at a Waffle House for 24 hours. For every either waffle for me or cheese omelet for you, an hour gets lopped off the 24 hours.
Right.
Right. So
I think that's what I said, isn't it?
Well, I want to make it as clear as possible to people. You don't have to sit there for the whole 24 hours.
Right. So you don't have to sit at a Waffle House for 24 hours. You can lop it off. So if I eat really fast, which I'm known to do, I could be there for 3 hours.
You could. If you want to put down 24 omelets or whatever, how many omelets that would be.
Because I got to be honest, one of the big issues is just the social awkwardness of sitting at a Waffle House for all that time.
You think they haven't seen Weirder? Come on.
Probably. All right. So what is the latest coming out of Texas?
So I was feeling very bad about this bet because everything's, as you said, looking kind of optimistic about Dak maybe re-signing now that CeeDee Lamb is done. So this is from Clarence Hill from alldallas.com. This is from an hour ago. Jerry Jones was asked, if he was confident in Prescott being his quarterback in 2025, initially stuttered, then said, I think I am, but I understand completely our challenge. Confidence, not a word for me here. I think that we can do it, but we have not figured it out yet. Then he says, we don't need to get this done before the season. That's a direct quote. We just don't need to get it done before the season because it's in all of our interests for Dak and everyone to have a great season. And as a matter of fact, that's probably not realistic to think before the season. But my thought sitting right here is we will have Dak, but I'm going to say this. It's not done yet. This is the end quote. This is the best hope that I have, is that they don't get Dak done before the season. He ends up going to free agency, and then free agency is a crapshoot, Perloff. So if we can just get through this season, I feel much better about winning this bet over you.
Why are you trusting Jerry Jones? Why does that mean anything to you? Have you learned anything this offseason, Maggie? When he says something, it could be the exact opposite of what's going to happen. It could be exactly what's going to happen. I don't even know if he's really making these decisions. When he was all in, where you're like, oh, okay, he's saying we're all in. I guess that we're going to get all these great free agents in Dallas. No. So what are you going with Jerry Jones's comments here? I don't think they mean anything.
Well, we know that Jerry loves to delay paying people. So
yes.
I'm going to bank on that. That's your Cowboy Quickie for today.
That's my original thinking. That history will repeat itself, and he will let Dak get through his contract, then just pull up the Brinks truck with all this money for him next offseason. Because at the end of the day, if he does get the free agency, what's the best fit for Dak Prescott? A system he knows, a town he knows. Dallas will be the best fit, and they're going to end up having to pay him. It's going to be typical Jerry.
Here's another thought about this Waffle House bet that I'm a little concerned about is, I don't know how this goes for people who don't have to do this for a living, but just love football. I tend to gain some weight over the season. It's
you
a
were
lot
saying that. I've never seen you gain a pound, but please go ahead.
I'm hiding it. But here's the thing. It's a gradual burn. It's a lot of time clocked on the couch. It's a lot of wings. It's a lot of pizza. It's a lot of all that stuff. And so kind of gradually over the weeks, all of a sudden the pants start getting a little bit tighter. All of a sudden you start noticing a little more in the jawline, all that stuff. If I have to start the season by eating something like 13 or 14 waffles, I'm like in bad shape then. Then I really got to start, I got to cut back on my buffalo wing consumption. Like, I'm just not mentally here for this. So I
just have one waffle and sit there for 24 hours. What's wrong with that?
I don't know what's worse for your health, Pete, to be honest. Is sitting in a Waffle House for 24 hours can't be good. And
depends upon where.
Eating 15 waffles to get out of there early is definitely not good either.
Wait. Is that a system that you can do to get out of this bet? In my head, I thought you had to eat 24 waffles. You can actually eat one waffle and sit there for 24 hours?
I mean, if you want it, but then that's a punishment. You got to sit in a restaurant for 24 hours?
Oh, wow. But this is a whole new calculus. I assumed that everyone's going to go for the 24 waffles or the 24 omelets. So what's your ideal? Now you have to pick a perfect waffle number, Maggie. Calories, time. What if you eat 7 waffles to cut off 7 hours, then you are spending 17 hours in a Waffle House?
Well, this is why I'm holding out hope that Jerry Jones misplays this thing and that Dak Prescott gets to free agency, and here come the Bucks. I don't know.
Otherwise, you're sleeping. Yeah. Are you going to sleep in the booth at the Waffle House? I can't imagine that.
I'm wondering, like, can I bring a laptop and stream The Wire? I don't know. How am I going to pass the time? But
great question.
I'm not assuming that I'm losing this one yet.
B, we can't hear you. Oh,
I got to turn on my mic. This could be good for whoever loses. You make it your day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to think about what am I going to eat because you're at Waffle House. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
See,
what if I
issue,
don't?
my issue is way different. You know, I like cheese omelets a lot, but I'm going to be at Waffle House. I'm definitely ordering sausage and bacon, and if there's an excuse to put syrup on something, so it's not just the cheese omelets for me. It's also the side dishes.
Yeah, this Perloff is ordering the old 96er on the side, just to up the difficulty level. This is the other part. I mentioned, you guys, I'm doing the show from home this week in my closet because I tested positive for COVID, and I'm feeling fine. I'm feeling great, but I have no sense of taste or smell. What if this continues, and now I got to do this Waffle House bet, and I can't even taste it?
That would suck. I am so sorry. That sounds like a miserable fate.
Makes it easier.
Yeah.
But it's so much less enjoyable. To have to eat all these waffles and not even be able to taste them, that would be like a crime.
By the way, if you do lose, I'm going with you, and I'm eating a ton of Waffle House food just for fun. I'll volunteer to eat some of the waffles. I love waffles. I had it, Maggie. You know I can eat. I'm not bragging here. I went to Vermont last weekend, and I ordered the Hungry Man breakfast at the Cup and Saucer, which is famous. So it's 2 massive pancakes, 3 eggs, sausage, and bacon. And I ordered, my friends thought I was crazy, a bowl of oatmeal on the side, which I then proceeded to put all these nuts and milk on, ate both the whole things.
Okay, so this was awesome. You and your high school friends did a reunion weekend, and I know because we've been talking about this, you guys were trying to pick a location, and you batted around all these different places, and then you decided on Vermont. But you are staying with Paul Papps, your best friend from Dan Patrick Show, and one of your best friends in real life. Did Paulie extend this invite to you guys, or did you ask, hey, is anyone using the cabin?
Oh, I asked, is anyone using the cabin?
Okay.
No. Paulie was only there for one night. We were there for 4 nights.
Yeah.
He just stopped by to make sure we didn't burn down the house.
Did you?
No, we definitely didn't burn down the house. Although one guy did a bonfire outside, and I was pretty sure that he was going to burn down the house. It's a log cabin, so you do have to worry about that stuff. The other thing, Maggie, this is no joke. This is going to get serious for a second.
Okay.
There are bears everywhere. Paul's like, if you leave garbage out one night outside, you have 3 bears on the porch in the morning, so do not do that. And you know how paranoid I am about bears.
Yeah. It's your second biggest fear beyond sharks.
Yes. Well, there are a lot of other ones I haven't really shared yet.
Oh.
Not a huge fan of snakes or spiders either. But bears are a real deal in Vermont, but I did not see any. Hey, before we end the show, Maggie, there's another SNL nominee. Post-SNL career. It was a great debate today. Who had the best post-SNL career? Mike in California always has good ideas. All right, Mike, who is your favorite post-SNL actor?
Eddie Murphy. You look at what Eddie did in the 90s or late 80s and 90s, you couldn't make a movie without putting Eddie Murphy in it. And it wasn't until he decided to clean up his act and try to do more family-friendly stuff for his kids' sake that he started to decline. Otherwise, he'd probably still be pumping out movies the way he used to. I think he's number 4 all-time overall net worth value of all SNL people as well. So,
you know, Andrew Bogusch and I were debating this. Does the Pluto Nash era ruin Eddie Murphy? Were there so many bad movies, the clumps and all that maybe you knock him down?
The clumps and Pluto Nash, I think, hurt him quite a bit. But again, he was trying to do. He made a decision that he wanted to do stuff that his kids could watch, and he walked away from doing a lot more of the Trading Places and the Beverly Hills Cop movies to do stuff that would be family friendly, and it kind of reverse typecast him. But if you look at what he did during that era, I mean, like I said, at one point in time he was the number one all-time net value or net worth out of an SNL actor up until probably I want to say like the late '90s or early 2000s.
Well, that's a good point, Mike. I think we all looked at Eddie Murphy. We have a poll up at Maggie and Pearl on X, and Sandman Adam Sandler is winning it. I got to tell you, Maggie, you got to watch the special. It's called Love You on Netflix. It's a stand-up routine, but he has a spin on it that's quite unique. I don't want to give it away. It is really funny and really dirty, of course.
Yeah. Mike is, by the way, I mean, Eddie Murphy, the reason why I didn't pick him is because he was like the biggest star on SNL, so it was not that hard to believe that he would go on to be the biggest star after SNL. That's why I picked Chris Rock. He was like a nobody on SNL and then went on to be the highest grossing, one of the highest grossing comedians. But yeah.
Yeah, let it go, Maggie. Nobody is buying that.
No, but Eddie Murphy, right? Saturday Night Live ends in 1984, Beverly Hills Cop that year, then Golden Child, Beverly Hills Cop 2, then Coming to America, then Harlem Nights, 48 Hours, Boomerang. It just kept going and going.
Boomerang. I love that movie. All right,
gentlemen.
Great idea, Pete Bellotti, for the great debate today. Thank you very much. Thanks to Andrew Kaplan. Thank you, EJ. Thanks to everybody, all the callers. More SNL later this week. Thanks for joining us.
You're in a 5-minute break.